Up in the clouds, the sun is shimmering brightly around the white smoky clouds, covering the whole of the sky with their ecstatic beauty. Through there, the sun's rays are scorching right on this boy, Takamori. Taking a glimpse of his sun-kissed face, this blonde girl, Minamikawa, claims to know the secret of the person sitting next to her. Seeing him so lost in his thoughts, she remembers the crazy fact that this dark-haired boy likes her. What a troublesome heart flutter it must be for him. A bead of sweat rolls down her cheeks, thinking if she is the only one in this whole world to know about his like. Oblivious to him, this girl's life has been a tough and rough ride since the beginning, because society thinks of her as a useless human being. Not your average teenager, but stuck with a superpower straight out of a comic book. This girl is bestowed with great responsibility. However, this power doesn't taste as sweet as it sounds. Thus, it sounds more like being trapped in a never-ending reality show. She is surrounded by people calling her a sluggish, bothersome little prick, like having a live stand-up comedy show happening in her head 24/7. This saves a ton on movie tickets though, puffing out her cheeks like a grumpy goblin. This lasted only a second. Newsflash, Takamori has gotten a case of high school hard eyes, and it isn't exactly even the headlines for Minamikawa. Even though sluggish, Till takes up a big enough space in her pea-sized brain. However, sitting next to this guy would be a whole lot easier if he just stopped admiring her beauty every day. Hearing his thoughts about her rocking this outfit today, she couldn't stop turning beet red, trying to shut her ears off like this is ever going to help. Not to mention, his ever-booming popularity keeps skyrocketing in every grade. Thus, he looks to be quite blunt in handling heartfelt confessions. Although she never hears anyone claiming she is really cute, suddenly, she bashes Takamori to get a hold of himself. Oh Lord, if this guy could get a hold of his libido and not think of anything embarrassing for like a second. Her heart hammers in her chest, featuring a drum solo demanding her to calm down. Takamori, blessed his flustered heart, is like a hamster on a wheel whenever Minami throws a curveball at him. Takes a deep breath, he then channels her energy. Sudden drop of the eraser just becomes an excuse to get their eyes locked. As she was about to put it in his hand, he gasped so loudly in his mind, thinking how close she had just gotten to him. This just startles Minami through her jittering bones. While their eyes locked in mysterious gaze, Takamori couldn't believe her kindness to be this generous to pick the eraser of someone like him. Staring into her soul, he declares his love for her in his mind. While this crazy mind-reading power is causing Minami to clutch her teeth and turn as red as a tomato. Soon this guy takes a flashy turn after realizing how close he just got to her. On the other hand, turning hot red, Minami cannot stop herself from shutting her ears, like it is going to have any effect whatsoever. When he is making plans to transform this eraser into a treasured heirloom for his ever-going collection, Minami's head is about to blast away in frustration. With the help of some crazy thoughts boiling up like tea on the stove, she almost could die out of embarrassment. Thus, his words take a detour in her mind over and over again. She cannot stop hearing his confession and how she looked cute today as well. Not to mention, she couldn't believe she was dying from any other cause except from this deafening, suffocating embarrassment. Moreover, she remembers her days back in kindergarten, when she fainted just because her teacher patted her head out of appreciation. Needless to say, a bashful girl like her looks to be in some crazy danger over here. On the other hand, she doesn't know how to blame herself, but hearing someone's thoughts could be somewhat illegal and selfish. Since she got hold of this power, she has learned to ignore hearing the insults of people. Learning the skills of emptying her mind, with time she had freed herself from constant insults. After knowing this guy beside her, she would rather be insulted and constantly hated than be praised and liked every other day. This is where it hits here. A single flicker of an idea takes her to a new possibility to get herself out of this misery. She realizes how she can turn the tables around by making him hate her. Not only that, but with her great power comes a great skill of ignoring, which she could use for her own advantage by making him hate her. Once this guy, Takamori, starts hating her, it will be easier for Minami to avoid his constant bickering like other people. Pondering hard, she thinks that just declaring how much she hates him wouldn't flip his mind, but rather this would confuse him even more and make him curious. Suddenly, Takamori asks to catch a glimpse of her notes, thinking that he might have forgotten his book, and she complies by sharing her materials. But a sudden realization makes her shake her head in refusal, thinking this might be the start of her new strategy. Turning away, she angrily refuses to show anything to him as she shuts her book aggressively. Winking at her mischievous idea, she believes that this pretty girl not showing her materials would definitely work in her favor. How's that, loser? This pretty girl comes with 100 ways to crush your heart, since she doesn't even dare to get past him, thinking he would definitely utter these very words, but he ends up admiring her even more. However, diving into her delusions, Manami, thinking of how now he would shut his portal of endless confessions, ends up feeling guilty about how she might have overdone it. Sinking in the pool of guilt, she takes a sneak peek at his face, and can't help herself admiring how cute he looks looking at her. A second later, peeking at his desk, he finds her first ever cold attitude towards him, promising a great future for them. Hence, she is baffled to see his positive response, seeing her ridiculously rude behavior, so she just withdraws from this attack and hands over her book. Well, this is just a stunt after losing from her guilt. Though he thanks her, his heart cannot stop fluttering over learning how playful she gets. After that, sighing over her seat, she has worn herself out into thinking of every plan to get away from this moron's lovable thoughts. Couldn't keep herself in control, she ran to the toilet so that she could explode with her spinning head and get this out of her system. Even more so, it's not all about not being used to it, but if this goes on long for Manami, she will go crazier over time. On the verge of dying of embarrassment, her boiling head is making the bathroom all steamy hot. Thus, she decided to finally figure out some trick to trigger his buttons to hate her before her head took a full-on Tokyo drift to hell. With that, she now only has one thing left to do. Later on, Manami invites Takamori to the rooftop of the school's building to execute the little plan she thought of before. Covering her blushed face as red as a tomato, she apologizes for giving him a sudden invite here. Although this guy cannot keep his excitement in check in his mind on meeting her alone, but surely can pull off such a devil-may-care in reality. And this is where it gets super crazy, when this all-blushed, beet red, blonde girl, Minamikawa, finally asks Takamori how he feels about her. However, her sweaty raising such a heady question would endanger her with an embarrassing death. She believes that making a guy forcefully confess just to reject him would crush him so hard that his hatred would seem to have no bounds. Turns out, Manami is not all about joining the I Hate Takamori club, but these dire measures are just for her peace of mind. Standing before her, clenching her hand while trembling in stress, she is ready to hear his thoughts, even if he says he hates her. Thus, this is when she takes a glimpse of his face, which is flushing red with his heartbeat fluttering so hard, taking his breath away. His words were all a blur, and a rumble of thoughts ran past her head. All she could grasp was hearing love, preciousness, and something that made her cheeks erupt in a ripped tomato explosion. Thanks to all those romance movie marathons, this might be the one reeking of success. After maintaining her balance for a few minutes, her body gives away and she falls like a stone statue, ready to crumble in bits. Oblivious to what just happened to Manami, he crouches over her, extending her a hand to lift her up. Manami slams her head out of frustration, with some silence trapped in her crooked teeth. This was torture. Seated next to a guy whose thoughts were an open romance book in Twilight Zone, and this is supposed to be an advantage. Well, even if that happens, Manami, when mumbling, swears on figuring it out, even if it takes a full-on brain surgery. Lost in the crowd, has anyone ever felt alone in this vast field? However, this girl, Minamikawa, the mind reader, has gotten used to this very treatment after living for 16 years. After mastering the art of avoiding their hateful gazes and empty roasts, she finally finds peace for herself, up until this guy, Takamori, enters her life. Later, entering the class, she wishes good morning to Takamori. This is where the disaster strikes, all because she peeked into this guy's brain. Hiding away his true emotions, this man would blast away his lovely thoughts of admiring Manami, a girl sitting next to her. With her entrance to the class, the first thing she hears is how cute she looks today, though. Leaving her all blushed, she shuts her ears and crazily trembles in embarrassment, claiming how annoying he sounds every day, calling her cute. Thus, she is damn sure this is definitely going to cut short her life, and she will end up dealing with the Grim Reaper pretty damn soon. Not to mention discussing her reason for death. The Reaper might die out of laughter himself. All her head is smoky flushed, and she is aching to get insulted, more so than this contact torture of being loved by the guy next to him. Hence, this girl, Manami, must dig some tricks out of her bag before her heart loses the fight of life. Afterward, as her head is steaming hot, she desperately wants the ground to swallow her whole. In utter embarrassment and burning with shame, she slumps on her desk, panting heavily with puffed-up cheeks. This love onslaught is out to rob the soul of Minamikawa's son, so she settles for a retreat today. After walking out of the class, exhausted from this crazy mental marathon, Manami slides outside the door like a crooked noodle, wiggling away. But as she just started her sluggish, slow stroll out in the corridor, calling this a retreat for today, she halts on the spot. A sudden realization smacks her insides harder than a physics surprise quiz. At the same time, her jaw did a full-on Tokyo drift, knowing how she had forgotten her bag inside, which never happened in the history of her life. With a panic yelping at this poor girl that would put a hummingbird into shame, Minami has rocketed her way back to the classroom. So her eyes, as if hungover on 4 shots of espresso, scan the room, until they stuck on Takamori's buttoned eyes, who, by the way, is handling a mountain of paperwork like a brain surgeon knotted up. Suddenly, she calls Takamori, and her voice echoes, slamming the walls of the room, only to ask if he isn't going home yet. Thus, Takamori shares how he is helping the teacher grade the tests for a bit while showing the pile of work. Though doesn't look like it is a little bit from this angle. A sympathetic pain shot through her, the usual clenching of her near hand, specifically holding a giant boulder of nothing but papers, makes Minami feel guilty. Are they kidding us? What kind of master this guy thinks he is, putting such trust and burden in one student? Talk about monster in disguise. Noticing the bundle of knotted up equations ready to be solved, she figures this to be quite troublesome for this guy shortly. Not gonna lie, this looks like a serious case of never-ending hiccups, giving it a slight tune to her misery. Out with her reflex to help this guy, she suddenly realizes not helping would help her cause in pushing him away for good. She then believes that the less Takamori sees her kind, bubbly nature, the less he would get drawn to her. However, this thick air weighs heavier than the deadline for a math assignment, and this awkward, bubbly girl lets out a nervous chuckle. Declaring this to be quite troublesome, she wishes him good luck. And just after that, a wave of guilt washes over her face when she steps outside. Turning away, she bids her farewell, while she apologizes over her breath. Well, her thoughts are as cruel as ever. Minami is overthinking about how Takamori would think lowly of her for not helping her with this pile of work. Oblivious to him, she is dying to tell him how this is making her suffocate when being mean to him for his own good. But to her surprise, after being immune to people's remarks, she finally believes in getting used to having a normal life. Not to mention, this power finally becomes immune to insults, until her fate is entangled with Takamori's. Just imagining that helping him with that mountain of work might put her in fatal danger of sudden death out of embarrassment, she trembles in fear like a crybaby. Even outside the door, she could hear his thoughts about how she is one generous lady. Turns out, her hoping to see him tomorrow for someone who is plain and dull. He definitely starts thinking more highly of him. Upon hearing this, Minami stands there motionless, sinking in the puddle of guilt. After slipping against that door, she cannot help but hide her scarlet, flushed face when admitting how this guy can be so kind. Playing with the fingers like a nervous wreck, she thinks of helping him after hearing his kind, unwavering thoughts about her. However, realizing how easily she is sliding away from her plans, she shakes her head to snap back to reality, where she only wishes to steal her heart. In the name of a peaceful high school, she runs for her life, faster than the rabbit finding a house of carrots in the desert. And honestly, that marathon back home didn't even last until she reached the school gate and dived back to class to help him. After a while, these two, with the unbelievable fate of sitting right next to each other, are scribbling away. Thus, exhausted from hearing his internal jibber-jabber about her, she cries out, finishing this rather quickly so they can rush back home. At the same time, after running out of ink, she asks to borrow his pen but ends up touching his fingers suddenly. However, she quickly apologizes as if it is nothing but our guy Takamori trying to control his emotion when clenching the hand, claiming not to care about this. Don't know about this guy, but Minami's brain sure has lost it this time. Feeling like a hamster wheel gone rogue, she is spinning at a dizzying pace like a nervous wreck. While her stomach is lurching with this crippling anxiety, she falls to her knees. Turns out, this girl is sure of being closer to her death, more than she ever thought she would be. As he slouches over to her, asking what is wrong, Minami is screaming with silence, blaming him for everything that had befallen her not-so-normal life. With some clarity clearing her thoughts, she is baffled to see him not embarrassed at all. Not to mention, his poker face is just too good, not caring about what just happened, while Minami is out here, the only one embarrassed. Sweating like a disco ball after a karaoke night, she cannot keep up with this gut-wrenching play. Taking a long sigh, the only thing she thinks is left to do to make this guy confess. Suddenly, with some inches closer to him, she straight up asks if he likes her. With a momentary silence, she just turns scarlet red as the room temperature takes an intense shift around them. Where Takamori's eyes are wide in shock, staring at her puffed-up face. He tries to mutter something, but he gets interrupted by Minami. Her head gave away smoke as if someone had left a stove on her head, her eyes bulging out of embarrassment. Knowing she is at her limit, she runs for her life, while declaring this never happened. While that's happening, Takamori, covering his face all flushing red in the corner, thinks about how this sudden moment surprises him. Not to mention, he just doesn't understand why his heart would not stop fluttering before Minami. Mustering all the courage of a house cat and a few words to fetch her all-time peace back, this girl, Minamikawa, dares to ask if Takamori likes her. Taking a deep breath, this blunt question simmering in her brain for some time, she suddenly thought of pulling herself out of misery. A beat of silence is stretched, but Takamori is daring to cut this with a butter knife. Seeing him about to mutter, her cheeks flushed red like a ripe tomato, the air got steamy hot around them. Takamori head and bewildered, she calls it quits in mid-air and jumps outside like a dog off his leash. On the other hand, Takamori's cheeks burn like chili peppers as he buries his face in surprise. This whole breathtaking situation leaves him stunned, and honestly, for some reason, this guy complains about his heart not knowing how to stop tap dancing. On the other side of that door, Minami is doing her own tap dance of misery while singing on repeat, as if this is all bad. From her soaking denial to her restless night on the agonizing mattress, Minami's head keeps on replaying her epic failure to bring her peace back. That afternoon loop in her head, with a number on signal, this is bad, is about to turn her night upside down. Letting out a sigh that could fog up a room, this girl screams away when mentally replaying how she said an outrageous thing out loud to Takamori. Knowing how she got carried away without a second thought, she tosses herself on the bed sheet. Turning beet red, she believes how embarrassing her coming days are now going to be. Thus, she only desires to fade away, as she cannot overlook the fact that she is more self-conscious than a parrot with a crooked beak. The next day, Minami couldn't fetch enough sleep to wish anyone good morning. A gloom cloud resting upon her head, she ponders how she ever going to face that guy. Suddenly, the rattling of the chair spooks Minami, when she finds Takamori sitting on her seat. Hence, they exchange their morning wishes. Looking at him, she discovers him as normal as the first day of high school, even after such a chaotic event yesterday. Staring at him, she finally hears him dying to know what yesterday was all about, as he couldn't get it out of his head. Turns out that even this guy did not get a wink of sleep. With no such as a snore in sleep, this girl Minami is so out of it that she can't even catch a single ounce of sleep last night. Talk about some night owls playing out on the field. Thus, after that incident, Takamori thinks of being so conscious of her that he cannot even see her straight in the eyes. Finding him overthinking like a scientist solving an equation that could take them to Mars, he goes to collect his thoughts. From her rooftop investigation of asking how he thinks about her to yesterday's incident of asking if he likes her, he wonders if she finally learned the fact that he has a thing for her. Of course, she'll also think that way, dummy, asking if his sorry ass has just managed to leak so much love out that she caught up to him. Takamori figures this to be outright impossible. Recalling how everyone declares him to be a facial dead creature, he asks himself if there is the possibility of someone like her knowing how to read minds. Seeing him catch up to her mind-reading ability, he gasps in utter shock. Slamming his cheeks, he determines not to trouble her with his feelings, so he will continue to think about it in his mind, not knowing that is the thing that is wrecking her nerves the most. Later on, in the PE period, she figures herself going in circles while running in the field with other students. Anyway, she is dead set on planning a way to make Takamori hate her before she falls into her grave out of embarrassment. However, these juggling thoughts make her face the ground as she trips over a rock in the mid-run. Talk about her dying luck. With her jaw dangling on the floor, she is sure that the gods above have cursed her with darn luck, and to compensate for this, a mind-reading power that definitely adds more misery. Upon her coach asking if she is alright, he calls out for anyone available to take her to the nursing office. And to be honest, she just needs to hear that and most of the injury magically heals, but this girl is not going to say no to a nursing visit. As lively as she can be, she demands to go all by herself. Happily moving out of the field, she is glad about not bothering anyone at all when she can clearly hear them nagging all the way there. Later on, wearing her shoes, she almost cries on seeing her twisted injured leg. Thus, she realizes how some help would be nice around here, but she is nowhere near class. On the verge of tears, she thinks about how this is just not her day today. All of a sudden, Takamori flashes the other side like a Superman, asking her if she is okay. As Minami, with tears dripping from her flushed face, jolts a mile away and tries to cover her face. Hearing his thoughts, she learns how he breaks away from the marathon only to check up on her, but he wishes to hide this to not make her angry. So this guy utters a big fat lie that he is out here to fetch something he forgot, to none other than the mind reader Minamikawa. Scanning her all down, he figures she got her leg twisted. However, trying to hide her pain so as to not trouble Takamori, she flashes a brilliant grin while mentioning how she is resting out here. Standing up with a nervous chuckle, she demands Takamori to go off to his marathon before the coach gets angry. All of a sudden, grabbing her hand, he got his serious mode on, as he exclaimed, not finding her anything near fine. This just takes her by surprise out of the blue, while Takamori just proves to be the type who acts without thinking. With just that, her head started spinning, as she couldn't grasp this situation. Without further ado, he goes on her knees, asking her to hop on him so he could carry her to the nursing office. Startling the daylights of her, her heart is not missing a beat of flutter when she asks herself where she just got herself into. Beads of sweat washed over her face. She could not withstand how she was piggyback riding the classmate boy in the school. And this is where her embarrassing rumor is going to fill this place up with endless gossip. Thus, she asks her to let her heavy body down now, but he refuses to do so, as he thinks it is quite light for him. Staring at him, she believed that if she took a peek at his mind, she would definitely faint right on his back. Swearing to never let that happen, suddenly he hears his thoughts and learns how this guy is aware of how she doesn't wish to trouble anyone. Even then, he believes her overdoing stuff, dialing up a bit. But he loves this part of her as well. Moreover, taking her to the nurse, he would be happy if she started relying on him more. Hence, Minami is flushing hot red like red chili on fire on his back, which makes Takamori ask if she has gotten a fever suddenly. Putting her down in the infirmary, he mentions calling her nurse while she rests here a bit. Suddenly, she grabs his attention, but turning her red face to the side, she thanks him for carrying her here. With that, not trying to be a bothersome potato, so she promises to carry him if he gets hurt. Finding him all confused, but with her macho pose, she claims to be stronger than how she looks. So she assures him about carrying him in princess style when the time comes. Proud of his mind cooking up such a mischievous move, she figures this is killing two birds with one stone. One is out of debt, while the other weighing on him for being carried by a girl, which definitely would kill this guy. Thanking her outright, he thinks about how her gap is adorable, and this is enough to short-circuit her brain into kaboom. Afterward, in front of the nurse, she notices how Minami has a fever when she is screaming hard about having no such thing as a fever. The next day, with a glint in her eyes, Minami approaches Takamori to borrow his phone for a second. Okay, what on earth does she think she is doing, fidgeting on his phone though? Handing it over in no time, Minami's fingers tap across the screen for some seconds until she gives it back with a wink. Then, with a quick zap, she hopes to see him later before zipping out of sight, while leaving this poor guy confused. We are all hooked on figuring out what mischief she is up to now. So there it is, her phone number neatly installed under his contacts. Thus, he couldn't help wondering what this was going to lead to now. Proud to possess Takamori's line, she is all set on spamming him with stickers and all kinds of emojis to annoy him, including phone calls all day. With this trick, she believes he will pull his hair out in no time. Without waiting for anything, let's just annoy the heck out of this guy in his home. With a sly chuckle, Minami realizes she is finally holding the best cards to play her moves. On her way to lawn, a sudden ping on his phone notifies a text. He then read it to be Minami, telling him she just got home, while he settles into his pajamas. After 30 minutes, Minami in her loungewear texts him back again asking if he is home. Peeking at her phone again and again, only to see if he texted back after 2 hours, she wondered if he had slept or something. Upon seeing the text box, she is appalled to find him leaving Hiran's scene zone. Like how Takamori could do this to her, or she worries if she has done it too much. However, trying to remind herself, she believes this to have worked in her favor, but her face tells a different tale. With that, she howls like a baby wolf, crying about how she cannot read his mind at all. On the other hand, Takamori is enjoying getting lots of pings from Minami, but this guy knows nothing about replying at all. Shuffling from one idea to another, he cannot seem to pick what's best to reply with. Drenching in sweat all over, he is stressing while rejecting every single idea that has comes across just to find the best possible one. All of a sudden, Minami hears a ping, only to find a Neko sticker, which is raising more questions than answering any. Hence, Minami is flustered, as if the ground is being swallowed from underneath her. Therefore, she is having a hard time believing that the guy is trying his best to end the conversations fast. even though she has not even spammed him yet. Dumping down her mouth, Takamori, cursing his messaging skills, chooses to rely on the stickers instead. Moreover, he wonders why someone like her would law on him. Wishing for some nice social skills to not bore Miami with his planned personality, he snaps himself back to reality. All of a sudden, a call at this night hour startles Takamori as he takes a deep breath before saying hello, only to find the girl he loves on the other end. His heart flutters hearing her voice on the line as she calls his name. While that happening, she reminded him about all the texts he hadn't responded with, so she instead hopped to ring him so she could check on him. Awkwardly chuckling on the terrace, she tells him not to worry about such a small thing. After some passing seconds, their silence is dull against their breath over the phone. Sweat washes over her face when she realizes this conversation seems to not go anywhere even if they are on call, even though she would always know what was going on inside his little head. But his head was so far away that she could not catch some signals. Remembering his thoughts about liking her and finding her cute and lovely, she imagined him to be rather talkative. Besides that, he looks to be a lone wolf, so she realizes she has to come up with something rather fast. Thus, she demands him to go outside in the gallery, telling him how it is a full moon today and how it is beautiful. With that, she asks if he could spot this mesmerizing view, thinking about how they both are staring at the same moon. Turns out there are countless things he would like to share with her right now, but this just frustrates him as he cannot put his thoughts into words. Dumping down, he only wishes to convey what his mind echoes to her, recalling the memory of her on the street when walking away with his friend who was complaining about how this entrance ceremony was quite bothersome. Turning around, he peeks at Minami dealing with an old woman, trying to help her out in carrying her heavy bag across the street. Again with her macho pose, he finds her looking adorable and convincing the old lady about how strong she is. Thus, he clutches onto the gallery's fence as he utters the words, "The moon is beautiful, isn't it?" And this just holds Minami in a rather heavenly moment, where she refuses to even flicker a muscle in shock. Blushing all red, her eyes wide as she couldn't believe her eyes of what her just muttered. Snapping back to reality, she gets startled enough that her phone slips out of her hand suddenly. All flustered sitting on her knees, she admits to being stunned to almost death. With her overthinking mode activated, she jumps a mile high when trying to convince herself that he means the actual moon, not her as the moon. On the other hand, Takamori is shocked to see her hung up, while his little sister calls out to him, asking if she is his girlfriend. Like a big brother, he asks if she tried to eavesdrop on him, when she tells him about hearing the moon is beautiful. However, he assures her that she isn't his girlfriend, but his sister makes him realize how the moon is beautiful means confessing his love to her. Realization hits him hard as if the rug is pulled from underneath his feet as he gets the idea of why she could hang on him like that. Trying to hold his head so tight, he blames making the foolish mistake of scaring the daylights out of her. Whereas his sister scolds him for being this dumb, especially when he isn't serious about this. A bead of sweat rolls down his cheek out of embarrassment as he tells how he has been serious about this for a long time. The next day, rushing on to reach her classroom on time, she only wishes Takamori to have forgotten about what happened last night. As she imagines meeting him and wishing him good morning, she thinks about apologizing for last night's blunder. This girl continues to mumble in a whisper, deciding how to take this situation on with care. Turning flushing red like a ripe tomato, she turns her super excuses mode on. Is it just a lawn someone or she is bored? Afterward, arriving at her desk, she asks if he could just forget about last night. Staring down, he agrees on it, while these two continue to share silence further on. Although she is turning scarlet, she notices him surprisingly normal today. However, Minami looks rather disappointed to discover last night wasn't about confession at all. All of a sudden, Takamori mumbles that he doesn't want her to forget anything about last night. Hiding his face to the other side, he is flushing red while claiming he meant what he said that time. And this just catches Minami off guard as she realizes this is a confession after all. With that, she jumps a mile high like a rocket launching into the sky, with his face hot red like chili peppers. The next day, Minami reaches Takamori with a red face like a stop sign that could stop any car in broad daylight. Fumbling on her words, out of a series of excuses, she has planned so much to deal with these scenarios after putting a blunder last night. Jumping from being bored to using lawing with someone, this girl has juggled all kinds of excuses like a runaway train, only to find herself straight up before Takamori while asking him to forget about anything that happened last night. With that, this air crackles with a thick silence playing a different echo for a moment. that is buzzing up this tension between them. Hence, Minami feels like a cherry out to burst through, but she finds Takamori more than normal. Seeing that she believes the last night held no weight. Right this instant, Takamori wishes not to forget anything that happened yesterday, as he admits meaning what he muttered last night. With that said, he hides his face on the other side, while his cheeks burn like chili peppers on the side. Hearing this, her jaw drops to the floor, asking if she understands this really or not. Hence, her stunned face looks more visible because Takamori just hid his face and emotions quite nicely. Realization dawns on her tiny body as she practically launches on her chair like a rocket taking off. However, Takamori's face still coaching hot, and he watches her go. In this next cooking, the teacher asks everyone to form new groups and start making curry. On her assigned spot, Minami is there with a sharp knife and onion in her hand, worrying about screwing this up. While her mind cannot avoid the fact that Takamori-kun has made a blunt confession to her, thinking how her mischievous trick played on her. Even with all the commotion surrounding here, nothing is stopping them from fighting their internal battle. Though she claims not to hear anything, he explicitly says he loves her. Hence, she believes in not giving a second thought to it. Suddenly, Takamori comes to her asking if he should cut the vegetables for her since she has been staring at the knife for the past 5 minutes. Realization hits her hard when he sees everyone noticing how Takamori is being generous to her. In between the clattering of kitchen utensils, Takamori gets worried seeing her lose balance like that, as she is dizzying up. Crying out while chopping the onions, she exclaims about how weirdly conscious of him she became. A bolt of blue, this girl, Minami with a reckless attitude, ends up cutting her finger by accident. Screaming like a baby while blowing at it, Takamori asks if she hurts herself again. However, she bursts it off her while claiming nothing has happened. After a while, Takamori bandages Minami all nicely, upon hearing how he wishes to be more careful. Upon seeing her tremble, he believes her losing her mind as she continues to not acknowledge herself. With that said, she jumps a mile high with her cheeks red, deciding to start the curry now. Blundering all the way, she is about to burn anything that comes before her. Later on, Minami's finishing says more about her cooking than anything else. While her teacher's jaw is nowhere to be found, she is a nervous wreck when looking at what she created. This calls for Minami's rebellion. Giving it a tasting drive, his friends with their bags full of excuses would lose their appetite. Thus, this girl apologizes for ruining everyone's appetite, while she blames Takamori-kun for appearing in front of her. However, she is sure no one would touch that curry, so she realizes making Tamakori eat it all. Afterward, this guy, Takamori, removes his hat, just to sit down and eat away what Minami has cooked. Munching on, he believes having to eat the most delicious curry ever made. With a clanking of his spoon, Takamori, ever the smooth operator, is busy enjoying the handmade curry made by Minamikawa. Besides that, his classmates are stunned far away. When they cannot stand the smell of it, they see him gulping one bite after another. Chomping on this delight, he continues to munch on sincerely as he praises this curry as being the most delicious thing he has ever had. And this is just enough to brighten Minami's little day up, dazzled by his charm. Bless his heart, Takamori is all about munching on his favorite girl's cooking happily, which is a luxury in itself. Like what the heck is going on? This guy finds his crush's handmade curry dinger-licking good. A truly blessed man. Even more, the other classmates praise his bravery in letting her stomach even come close to that melted charcoal. This is doing a bit much, might even jumpstart a plague from scratch. Not to mention his eyebrows wrinkling up, but he still would not drop that spoon in any case. Like how this dummy could be so determined. On the other hand, staring at that burnt potato, he is convincing himself that this ain't bitter at all. Even though Minami is delighted to see him like this, she soon realizes how he is forcing this all down. Thus, she comes to take away the plate. But Takamori refuses to hand it over, looking over his pitiful soul, munching on the worst burnt food ever made in history. Someone gotta stop this guy from flooding himself with trash. However, bless her heart, Minami's eyes spin around as she cannot control her happiness. Not to mention, she has no idea where to place this. While doing a happy tap dance, she hears him praising her hand that prepared this meal. Although noticing how much effort he is putting out here in eating all this, she shouts at doing her best next time. To make up for this time, she promises to learn how to mix something he loves. Thus, scanning how his color changes, she makes sure to tell how she cannot cook up anything complicated. But looking at her handmade curry, it looks like a witch just made a death potion to poison the village. Dumping down before him, she tells how cannot pull out something nice for him. All of a sudden, he holds her hand while confessing how happy this just made her, so he wishes to eat it all up. Seeing the brilliant glint in his eyes, this guy, Takamori flying his way with lovely praises, is slowly blowing Minami's mind. With a wish to eat her cooking, she holds her hand to remind her how happy she makes him. And this just catches our girl by surprise, out of the blue, as she forgets to take her next breath. Turning scarlet, with her eyes bulging out in shock, she notices how her hands are still trapped in his fingers. Thus, she snatches it away suddenly, while freaking the hell out. Oh well, the heck this guy doing on his knees, trying to confess during his cooking class. Moreover, Minami is busy trying to catch his breath, while Takamori is lost in thoughts again, as if trying to figure out where the Infinity Stones are now. The lad would snap and make 100 more dishes made by his crush herself. Looks like he is all hooked on this new burnt flavor. Unbeknownst to her, Takamori is lost in his imagination of Minami serving her delicious food like a wife, eager to see him enjoy it. Though his crush is pretty mid when it comes to cooking, the burnt flavor is enough to make this guy daydream. Seeing how he is bursting with happiness, he thanks her for preparing such hot meals for him. Poor soul of Minami almost passed away when seeing the live show of her future with Takamori unfold before her eyes. Bash. Right this instant, she slams Takamori's shoulder to snap him back to reality. Lost in their own playful bickering, it is oblivious to these guys who cannot hear the stunned silence from the crowd just behind them. With that playful sparring on the side, this leaves a wide-eyed row of the crowd, wondering if this is the beginning of something special. Pondering upon her past few days of interaction, Mina sweats and thinks to herself that it is bad. Girls sure do like to overthink even the most platonic of friendships. She is doing exactly the same. Recently, she feels like she has been really close to Takamori. It is like they call each other regularly. He gives her a piggyback ride. He loves to eat whatever she cooks. He might be more interested in eating what God cooked. She stands in the middle of the classroom and brushes off her thoughts. Mina thinks that she has to quickly come up with a way to make him hate her somehow, and suddenly she hears a snap and looks at the ground to see what broke. Well, it was a pen on which she accidentally stepped over. Lucky pen, got a death by getting stepped over by a hot girl, what most of the weebs want but won't get. Mina gets confused and bends down to look and realizes that this was Taka's pen that is now in two pieces. Before she can even process the breaking of the pen, Taka returns to his seat and a jolt passes through her body. And he asks what is wrong. That is when the bell rings and Taka turns towards the bell. Mina was about to hand him over the broken pen, but hides it behind her back and reaches out her hand to him to greet him good morning. After the bell rings and the lessons start, Taka wants to write his journal and Mina overhears it. She screams internally as to what she has done. Broke a pencil, not a vow to not lose her eternal V card. Mina runs to the bathroom and locks herself in a stall, surrounded by a gazillion thoughts in her mind. She regrets that she broke his pencil and frowns while she sits on a toilet. But anyhow, what is done is done. Now for the loss of his pen. The pen which he probably uses to explore his body, she has to say sorry. She is sweating out of stress, and that is when her angels show up. The left angel says to her that this is the perfect opportunity for her to avail. As Mina wanted him to hate him, so when she told him about the pen, he would end up hating her and it would all end well. But her right angel says while screaming at the left angel that how can she even say that. Then the angel turns to Mina and says that the pen she broke could be something very precious to Taka. It could be anything like his grandma's memento or something of that sort. Here comes another wave of overthinking for Mina. She holds her face and thinks that someone as chill as Taka could get so mad over that. Mina can't stop thinking about what she did. Now she realizes she can't waste any more time, and she runs out of the bathroom stall, screaming that she has to say sorry to him right away. She returns to her class and makes her way to Taka, who is busy using his cell. Mina grabs his attention and he looks at her wondering what she has to say. She was about to apologize as Mina was still gathering what to say to him. Breathing heavily, she squeezes the pen in her hand tightly. Before she could say anything, the class duty showed up and called up Taka to come and help. Taka gets up to leave, but he turns back to Mina and asks her to complete what she was saying. Mina jolts and sweats and tells him that he can go because there is no way she can give an apology in a hurry. Taka puts his seat back and says okay and leaves. He sure is sort of confused because he has not seen Mina in such a position before. But Mina is a master at hiding and hides it and tells him good luck for whatever he is going to do. She keeps in her mind that she will find another chance. So Mina finds it in the middle of their lesson. As the teacher is teaching, she calls him, and before she could even say anything other than hi, the teacher taps the board and asks the next question from Mina. Here goes the second chance to apologize. Well, maybe the third time's the charm. The chances for apologies look much more like the number of husbands of Kim Kardashian. Okay, so the third time she tries to talk to him literally while running during PE period. She tries to catch up with him, but well, maybe fourth time's a charm. So she tries the fourth time, but the teacher appoints Taka to help him carry the bundle of the books. She literally can't find any chance to apologize to him, as most of the time in the day either he is busy or she is busy with her own stuff. Anyhow, Mina finally gets so tired of finding a way to apologize to him, as she already has made up her mind that this is probably a deceased memento that she broke. Frustrated completely, she stands in the window. Mina wonders what is even going on, and probably this is a God's sign that she can't find a way or time to apologize. She calms herself down and thinks that how can she find him alone for once so she can take this huge weight off her chest. As she is completely lost in her thoughts, a realization hits her, and she realizes that all day long, she has been doing just one thing. That being, she is only thinking about Taka, all crappy day long. As Mina realizes that, of course she panics because this is not the time she surely wants to fall in love. She sits down and puts her head on her knees, and she wonders to herself that she feels so embarrassed. Then Mina takes out the pen that she broke. She sighs and thinks that Taka will be so upset for this pen that she broke. She is so sure that he will get angry at her, because that also could be something very important to him. After quite a bit of thinking, Mina comes down to one thought, that she has no option left other than calling him to that place again, then they can finally be alone. So we get taken to the rooftop where they stand face to face. My dude probably doesn't even care that his pen broke. Anyhow, Taka wonders why she called him on the rooftop. This is the second time she called him there. He wonders to himself that he did get a feeling that she tried to tell him something all day long, as she was continuously tagging along with him while trying to say something. Taka thinks that he probably did something to upset her. Here comes the realization, and he thinks that he has been grinning around her like a pervert. He is scared that it could be a solid reason that she wants to confront him for gawking at her in a weird way. And oh boy, he starts to shiver to apologize to her. But before he could complete his words, Mina took out the pen she broke and said sorry to her. Being surprised, Taka asks if that is his pen. With tears in her eyes like beads, Mina says yes, and she accidentally stepped on it and broke it. She cries and says to please forgive her as she broke something so precious to him. Taka is completely thrown off, but manages to gather his words and say that it is okay. Well, thank goodness that he did not get called out here for a confrontation of his creepy behavior. Though he says that it is just a normal pen for him that he got from a 100 yen store. And here Mina was thinking that it was some memento that his granny left for him. Taka makes it clear that it was just a random pen for him and nothing else, while she stands embarrassed because she completely overthought about it. But Mina says that anyhow she broke his pen, so she would like to compensate for it. She follows up with the question if he is free after school. Taka literally looks at her with little to no expression on his face. Poor boy thought that this was a date and she was asking him out in some way. Well, his inner voice is damn loud and even Mina could hear what he is thinking. Taka is in his own thoughts that it was just a pen and she took it so far to say sorry for it. He clenches his hand and thinks that her cuteness is so admirable. He wonders that she had wrapped it in her handkerchief all day long with the intention to say sorry to him for it. The thoughts link, and he comes to the point that Mina had been thinking about him all day long, because if that is the case, he would explode out of happiness. He realizes that he has to give Mina an answer, so he says that he is completely free after school. Though he is screaming in his mind that this is totally a date, and he had been dreaming about this day madly. Since Mina could hear out his thoughts, she screams internally while feeling shy and blushy that this is not a date. This is the story of a girl named Hinako, the queen of mixed signals and the boss of confusion. Basically, a whirlwind of mischief swirls around her life because trouble follows this girl wherever she goes, as if she is a magnet of chaos, not just for herself, but she makes the life of our unsuspecting high school boy an unpredictable roller coaster, often dangling on the edge of chaos and mischief. Being a friend of Asahi's older sister, she happens to be a frequent guest of this high school boy. Seems like this high schooler throws some hotshot legendary hangouts at home, apparently. They must be having some real heavy study sessions, or at least that's what they tell their parents. Well, at least they have an acting career up ahead if not. Hinako is going about having a busy schedule and misleading this poor high school boy with her made-up attitude. Who needs to be the goddess of confusion and deceit when you've got this irresistible charm? And honestly, this girl has this whole treat him like a brother or maybe a pet thing going down to an art form. Poor Asashi has the heat crawl up her cheeks, unsure if it's shyness or if she just did a bit too much makeup. Caught between a bewildered stare, her cheeks seem to be dancing on a flip-flop battle between embarrassment and something else. She cannot figure out what she should do, roll her eyes, or hide behind her manga collection. Pick the spot, girl. It is like walking in a romantic comedy where the punchline is nowhere near her reach. Not gonna lie, this reeks of twists and turns with a dash full of feelings and a series of surprises in their way. About to see the bugged sense of proximity and parental instincts of one gal and an otaku high schooler trying to find their way to live. Tapping over the phone, a handsome guy in the grassy green field looks to be much more magnificent as the wind blows his hair. Such godly features are so unreal and irresistible to scroll away, as the guy in spectacles complains about how tacky this new game is going. He surely feels like having a vacation just after playing this game. Probably because this just tested his eyes' patience, and that is just about it. Looks like he is asking himself if these graphics are actually of this time, or if they are reintroducing the Stone Age again. Can't they just keep the dead? I done no dead and respect it. Putting the phone back inside, he believes that the producers have never disappointed him so far with their expectations, so he plans on giving one more itsy-bitsy chance, because our guy has his curiosity piqued, but this time he does not wish to dive first. A toe dipped into the water, he wishes to take a closer look later. Knocking on a door felt more like whistling in a hurricane, so with a sigh, he went for a direct approach. Right there, the shoulder check. Seems like our otaku gamer guy has his expectations crushed into bits with a little less hope. Suddenly, a voice mumbles, exclaiming that the door is open on his way, so feel free to hop inside, as if someone is wrestling his way through the vacuum or something. Twisting the knob, he pushes himself in with a groan that echoes inside, unveiling the sight of a beautiful ray of sunshine gleaming on a gorgeous woman. Stretching her foot, she welcomes Akun wholeheartedly while standing on one leg in her crop top and shorts. Not gonna lie, that scene could cheer up any flimsy nerd. Meet Hinako, the cutest girl closest to this guy. A gorgeous Yaru with no personal boundaries whatsoever. Adding to that, she does a great job at being a motherly otaku high school student who apparently has a passionate, heart-wrenching tale coming her way. A love story, despite the constant obstacles, is going to be undeniably captivating. Announcing his arrival with his groceries, he seemingly has no idea what this girl is doing here, so he asks the reason for this pleasant surprise. One foot in the air as she calls him silly enough not to figure it out by her stance. With an obvious expression, she then explains that by holding a yoga pose, which breaks away as her eyes stun while spotting ice cream. And honestly, this is one of those things that guys have no clue about, which makes the girl hop like a bunny on steroids when seeing ice cream. Excitement doesn't do her justice as she rushes for some ice cream, so Akun asks her to choose any she prefers. And honestly, his words hit her like a sugar rush. Before he could blink as the bugs got jealous, she is bouncing like a hyperactive Bugs Bunny. All of a sudden, this scope of happiness lands so nicely over there, as her eyes are jammed at the blue one. That's gotta be soda flavored. Smooth as ever, Akun passes her favorite ice cream in her direction, so she digs in with the same excitement of a 5-year-old discovering the candy jar. With a sigh, and a cheek puffed out from a giant mouthful of ice cream, Akun calls out Hinako, who cannot even mumble a yes like this. At this point, the girl's voice is muffled by this frozen treat, while she asks him if he needs something. He spots Hinako's face, which appears to be a sugar-fueled explosion as she finally sucks the ice cream right in. Running a hand through her gorgeous hair, she looks at Akun with amazement when he asks her if she can dress rather properly. However, Akun couldn't help but grin at Hinako's ice creamy face, so he asks if she minds trading this war-painted dress for a proper one while keeping in mind that this is not her turf. And most importantly, he would not want anyone mistaking her for a walking Sunday. A single bead of sweat slips down his face as he musters up the courage to talk to this creature that definitely doesn't look very earthly right now. For a second, it seems like he chuckles, one heck of a time just decoding an ancient test, not a question about her clothes. Hinako squeaks with the most innocent mumbling as she explains how she is practically living in these outfits all this time. Shoving his glasses right back up his nose, Akun gives out a strained chuckle, followed by the echoes of an awkward silence. Hence, he mumbles how he has been muttering this thing on a daily basis. She has the audacity to act all strange every other day. Moreover, he mentions that he would definitely prefer a change of scenery for her clothes. The royalty here does not mind. Like a lightning bolt, Hinako grabs his hand and pulls him even closer. As she is ever the whirlwind, leaving a trail of confusion in her wake. She shoots a sly, mischievous grin at Akun and yanks him towards herself before he can blink a second time. Her grip over the headlock warms his neck as the tension in the room gets all intense with the temperature skyrocketing. The room smells like ice cream as she stands mere inches away from him while asking if he feels a little flustered having someone like her invade his property. His cheeks flush like a red apple, while his brain gets hit by the Pikachu-style thunderbolt faster. Hence, Akun finds himself looking like a fish out of water, completely astonished by Hinako's outright attempt to portray her boldness and confidence. With that, he quickly turns his gaze away from Hinako's mischievous, playful eyes as he tries to shake off her charm. Furthermore, this patient young man is a younger brother to his 3 years older sister. So let me tell a secret about Akun, as this super patient dude lives with his big sister, who, to be honest, is like the goddess walking on this sinful earth. Not only that, she is a little Miss Perfect, a scary tyrant of taste who makes sure everything in her sight is tidy and organized, just so. Though damn sure nobody would believe, as Akun recalls her judging his fashion sense since then like some French fashionista. Hard to live is a fashion disaster, baby, so your big sister has to style your wrecked life. Adding to that, he remembers the time he built a tiny pot as a sandcastle, in comparison to his older sister coming up with a symmetrical palace out of sand. Talk about a perfectionista. Calling her a diamond in the rough, he feels proud having a sister with such an incredible sense of fashion, even if her size was equivalent to a rabbit. But there is more to this, as Akun explains how this perfect taste led her to attend her middle school. One day, coming back home from school, he enters home and gets stunned on his way in, and his jaw practically dangling on the floor as he sees her big sister chatting up with this dreamy girl beside her. His eyes surely popped out of those sockets and jabbed back in as his sister called his attention. The cutest girl he has ever seen is standing before him when his sister introduces her best friend, Hinako. Passing a rather warm smile that could even make Obito forget Rin's charm in no time, she shows her pleasure in meeting Asahi-kun for the first time. Though his big sister acts all surprised that she expected her to pass, Asahi is blazed by her presence with sparkles in his eyes. Seems like even the most perfect beings are blessed in every way here. But don't get your hopes high because that ain't happening in the real world at all. Flaws for everyone with different flavors. Though Akun is all lost in his thoughts and nostalgia, Hinako inches closer has no clue what he is whimpering about. With his hands clasped together over his mouth, he mumbles about how Hinako is blessed with the face of goddess. Even with that, he believes she could model with such fine traits like all natural long hair, curly eyelashes, big pupils that need no contacts. Moreover, with this small nose, slightly thick and well-maintained eyebrows, she definitely marks to be one of God's best creations. Not gonna lie, the sculptor did take his fine-ass time creating our Hinako-chan to be the goddess of this century. Whispering amen, Hinako calls his attention. Akun with a sullen face reminds him of having the same taste as his big sister Tsuko. Trying to pry his gaze away from peeking at her soft melons, he grabs her jacket's zip to move it up, as she asks what he is going on about. Thus he is about to leave, but Hinako's boredom is not letting this poor guy leave like that, as she pulls his shirt. So the cutest girl closest to him has a desire to play some Mario Kart. After some inspired 5-year-old style begging session to force Akun into submission for the 2 whole hours of Mario Kart, she somehow wins this round. Even with the huge pile of syllabus for tomorrow's test, he bets his 2 hours on the line to join Hinako's gaming power hour. Thoughts about the tests rampaging inside his mind as a bead of sweat slips down his face while playing the game. Suddenly, his gaze falls over the clock as he blurts out that it is already late. Hinako mentions his tummy gurgling up as she is sure some mouse might have found their way in. Despite being late for study, Akun tells that he is going to cook something for them if she would like. And how can Hinako-chan after some hectic gaming hour decline such an offer while some mice hopping inside her tummy? Chopping up the ingredients in the kitchen, Hinako follows him to the kitchen, asking what he is going to cook up this time. Her stomach rumbling as she marks ready for some udon smash, but he mentions that he is always down for whatever Hinako wishes to eat. Furthermore, Akun tells how he is craving for some serious udon action in his tummy, but he asks for her preference as well. A little confused, Hinako looks at Akun as if he has 3 heads hanging over his body. She asks the reason behind this, thus he adds that his sister wouldn't let him have anything he picks due to her having the domination sickness. So the plan is if Hinako mentions she asked for it, they might be able to get away with it. Seems like Akun remembers World War Hai with his sister while picking dinner. Letting her choose would turn her all sunshine and rainbows, otherwise she does a great job being a blood-sucking vampire, ready to tear anyone's flesh apart. Talk about this sibling bond, or more of a dictatorship. And honestly, Akun expresses his belief over this plan working, while Hinako laughs at his brilliant attempt to launch a plan just to eat udon. Just then, a sudden buzz over her phone catches both their attention. With that, she shares how his big sister will be dining outside for this night. Guess she might have gotten lucky tonight. Good for Tsuko. So the crazy cop out of the way, Akun takes full advantage of the kitchen and comes up with some fine chilled udon. Moreover, he presents it with the eggplant, which is loathed with passion by none other than Tsuko, followed by some toppings. Though Hinako seems like diving headfirst as her mouth fills with water, so she clasps her hands to pay her gratitude. Devouring the udon over the table, Akun asks the reason behind her freestyle life when his big sister, the textbook nerd, is having a mental showdown with her hectic schedule. Mumbling through the mouthful of udon, she manages to utter something about his sister having sciences that is surely messing her up since the start. While she states about herself being in the liberal arts. Seems like some degrees let you breathe in the air and give some additional relaxing hours. This udon is a definite bomb as it has gotten his mind immersed in nostalgia. So 2 years ago, his sister Tsuko decided to leave home to start living her life on her own. Though this isn't enough for this ultimate control freak, that she had to drag this super patient guy, Asahi, with her. For independent living, she tries to hack her way in this routine by pulling Akun in to keep him as a housekeeper. Turns out she only needed a live-in butler to save some time to focus on her studies. Hence proved, science is a bit scary for everyone. That is when Hinako-chan pitches in their life as Tsuko's college bestie because of their prime close location. She spends more time here than anywhere else. Since a long time, he is sure that between their textbooks and game nights, he has seen less of Tsuko and more of Hinako-chan. Peeking at Hinako slurping udon right down her throat, he believes her to be cut only for the model career from the beginning. Not gonna lie, I agree with this guy. Can't believe such looks are not serving the fashion magazine. Hinako-chan's fine edges would make the cover story every month, betting on that for sure. Well, looking at her personality, she rather proves to be clumsy as he observes her slurping her hair right in with noodles. This girl surely has no clue what self-awareness is. Anyway, snapping out of it, Akun asks the starving girl to dial down the wild ride as she is eating her hair with the noodles. On top of that, he suggests she ties her hair up to avoid this happening again. But this girl, Hinako, seems to prove herself as one laziest woman, so she asks him to do it by himself while handing him the hair strand. Looks like the rogue hair strand has started to join the noodle party with special guests like chilled udon. Didn't believe the hair strand would get Akun away from his unfinished bowl of udon. Oh well, who would dare miss the chance of tying Hinako's hair? Seriously, hoping it doesn't feel like a bird's nest, he gets closer to grab her hair to tie the strand. Quickly averting his gaze away, he flushes hot red as he accidentally peeks at her soft melons. Now this guy is blindly trying to tie her hair in a bun, but he manages to do a pretty good job as he observes her still rocking this messy look. Thus, she exclaims how Akun already has fine potential in being a really good husband. Smoothing her way back to the udon, Afterward, washing the dishes later, a thought decides to cross his mind as he asks himself this hard question while scrubbing the dishes. Considering for a moment who would in his right mind have the nerve to say a no to this goddess, Hinako. Hence, Akun believes the girl's got a smile that could melt away even the rock. Not only that, with a face like hers, she could blast away 1,000 ships with a wink. Not gonna lie, she seems to be the Bo Hancock of this verse. One wink and the whole army is gonna go down. Any dude who dares walking away from such a fine piece of art is surely a fully grown retarded who has fried his brain cells for a chicken nugget. Seeing her as the walking ray of sunshine, the colors of rainbow, Akun finds himself again mumbling about her sister's friend. And this is the time for a reality check before he finds in the everlasting friend zone, which is more deadly than a cold shower. He reminds himself not to fall foolishly for her and ends this lovesick play for the night. Then she decides to call out for her shower time. A sudden surge of an idea pierced through her head as she slides her way towards Akkun in a creepiest way. Unbeknownst to her plan, Akkun feels the creepy vibes of this room as the air alters strangely while he feels someone closing in on him. To his right, he looks at Hinako putting her chin over his shoulder as she passes a deadly stare that practically feels like an electricity charging in. Soon, the paranoia starts kicking in as his senses tingles. With that, she gets shooted by the strange hostile look as she reminds him not to peep after her. With that, she heads down to the bathroom, while bursting in laughter as she rushes there. Not gonna lie, my heart is not ready for this soul-sucking, heart-wrenching excitement. Though gotta admit, if this keeps up the same pace, he might be applying for the pacemaker transplant in the hospital, as his pea-sized heart ain't ready for such a thing. Akkun is sure that this thing is never going to work out in this universe. Complaining how it is a bit too much for his dying heart, he wishes tranquility to be washed over his soul as he tries calming himself down. He calls for a mediation mode over his knees beside the kitchen with his head tucked down, as he is praying to the Lord above him. Dodging the thoughts about her being this close as cheese is with bread, he reminds himself of it never working out. Calling out to his crazy ideas to be erased right this instant, he focuses on ingrating his mind about how this is the most impossible wish to have her. Cutting down the obvious ways, no matter how many, he believes that thing like that ain't going to work out. Recalling back in elementary school when Hinako was warming hugs to Ekkun as he reminisced about his golden times. Though he remembers his sister demanding him to man up sometimes. But one thing that surely shook him that day, being within earshot, he heard his sister demanding Hinako to shut it down whatever she was thinking about liking this guy. Thus he remembers him liking this cute guy like a younger brother and nothing else. She asks Soko not to get any wrong ideas, which is what Akkun has been trying to feed himself since that day. His hopes crushed like marbles under the hydraulic press, powdered into crumbs, he believes there is no way she would look at him the way he desires. Even though he pushes, he is afraid of being friend-zoned for life, which is much scarier than cold showers. Not only that, he believes that there is such a slimmer chance of it ever happening. But his hopes all come tearing down as he looks at her underwear. No girl, he believes, would give away her delicate laundry to some guy she even likes slightly. Poor guide, welcome Akkun to the halls of the friend-zone kingdom, where the throne sits for those with the least chance of getting with his goddess. It is time that Akkun gets his seat there, rightfully. Cursing his undying luck before the laundry machine, while separating the delicates, he hears his big sister yawn her way across him. Moreover, his luck seems to be drying out as she continues to sort laundry, especially the delicates and no less. This man had surely messed with the universe in some way to be trapped in such a cosmic joke. Akkun, a super patient dude, is sorting his sister's undergarments and separating them from her friend's undies, who happens to be his first crush since forever. Talk about the tragedy that befalls him once in a while with a double dose of misery. On the other hand, Akkun complains of her sister trying to hide them like it is part of some top detective program. Who knew about the brutal play of life would look like this? Later, strolling down the street, while feeling defeated, he bumps into the familiar person who might be the reason behind his saddening look. Walking across Hinako, though Akkun's eyes might be blinding before her first crush, but definitely this guy has a vision of a megamind. Thus, she is rocking this lingerie look with a casual t-shirt, ripped jeans, and the whole cute vibe that always surrounds her. And honestly, his jaw deserves to be dropped as if dangling on the edge, as it is his first time he sees her in normal clothes. Exclaiming how he hasn't ever spotted her in this attire, gleaming with a smile, she asks if she is looking cute in this. With no second thoughts, Akkun slips with a heavy breath that she looks $1,000,000 cute. Somebody tells him that he is hanging on by a bit of a dramatic thread, and his demise is a promise if he keeps tagging along like this. But the man gotta take his chance, right? A little taken aback by the compliment of having 100 million points, but Akkun expresses how he finds simple as stunning. With Megamind's analysis, he figures the simplest clothes bring the best of the materials, so she finds her simply marvelous. And honestly, this look polishes her natural beauty even more. Anyway, she heads inside while following him and asks if he is already back from his part-time job. Not to mention, he had exams this week, so after chatting a bit, Hinako suddenly asks how it went for his last exam. Heading ahead, he mentions his usual average way out of his exam, so out of nowhere, Hinako showers him with a warm hug from the back for doing a good job. Moreover, seeing how he aces his exam, Hinako wishes for his assistance like a study buddy. Sees like even goddesses needs help with their homework. A bead of sweat washes over his face as he directs his face toward her. He mentions that even she scores a good grade. Hinako seems to not be riding on this factor at all. Furthermore, she finally manages these grades because Suko runs a tight ship around her while forcing her through her Spartan tutoring. Talk about the control freak with a raging spirit who cannot even let poor Hinako go. Shivers down her spine as she recalls Suko's exact words that forgiveness won't come easy if she does not end up enrolling for the same college as her. Just like a true dictator, Akon confirms her to be standing next to Hitler someday if her Spartan tutoring keeps this pace. Though Hinako admits of forgetting most of what she learned, she only remembers Suko promising the Lord of getting an average A out of Hinako's soul. Looks like poor Hinako shivers with her thoughts of even remembering any of it. Munching on the crispy potato chips, her eyes twinkle upon looking at Mevius, the K-pop group Akon and Suko loves listening to. She finds the black-haired dude to be the cutest among them all. A bead of sweat slips down his face. He calls Hinako's attention right away, zooming out, clenching his trousers tight as Hinako's shoulder is rubbing against his own. She squishes against his body even more and turns to have a look at him with a little close-up while locking his arms around a ball-shaped cushion. However, he finds Hinako a little too close to his face, as to which this clumsy girl is ready to share some potato chips with Akon, who gladly refuses having any. Not gonna lie, the poor Akon finds himself in a bit of a crazy pickle, but his oblivious ass does not have any idea what awaits him further. A bolt out of the blue, she gets a hold of him as he is about to stand up to get away from her. These guys are trying to roleplay as Tom and Jerry in a parallel universe. Even so, Hinako grabs his shirt. She passes a deadly glare to Akon's way while reminding him not to even think of getting away from her vicinity. Munching on the chips, she refuses to let go of his shirt, so with a losing battle, Akon decides to accept his fate. Furthermore, he takes a long sigh and focuses on reminding himself of being her pet dog and nothing else. Seems like this guy never runs out of his tranquility regime of calming himself down just in case if Hinako is cooking up some shocking adventure anyway with a sudden buzz over his phone. He blurts out that Suko will be dining outside again, as if she has adopted the bailing the night routine. With that, Akon cooks up an idea to swoop away from her vicinity. He exclaims of fixing something up for their appetite. With a call to the food, Hinako jumps right back into her good girl behavior. He figures that his sister's uptight force has affected their poor Hinako. Scrubbing the dirt off of his hands, he peeks at Hinako immersed in the chatter of the TV, while still managing to look like the cutest girl closest to him. Setting the warm meal with the soup on the side over the table proves that Akon's live-in butler skills are the reason Suko cannot seem to let go of him. On the other hand, Hinako's eyes sparkling while her watery mouth has just dropped its jaw down the floor. Her excitement sure has no bounds because she cannot wait to taste the dish that seems to smell like it's straight out of a restaurant. And honestly, this guy's meditation program must have involved a master chef course, cause the dude is rocking every test of proving to be the best husband. Hence, she excitedly cries out seeing hamburger steak ready before her, with a smoky hot aroma filling the air, which is making it even more irresistible for her to wait. So with a Japanese saying, "Itadakimasu," she pleasantly tastes it, but he knows she would rather dive headfirst in the bowl. With the first bite, she looks to be walking in the heaven's corridors. Not to mention, her puffed cheek on the side describes how she is refusing to gut it down her throat, so she can hold on to this yummalicious taste a little longer. Though with a little struggle, she blurts out the cutest way to compliment him while saying "show good." On top of that, she mentions how he manages to put everything inside that she loves, as if he is keeping tabs on what she prefers. As she chews her second bite, Akon mentions that her having a bad day deserves this little treat for sure. That is enough to jolt Hinako on her spot, as she becomes rock solid. And honestly, it looks easy spotting such a sad cloud dimming the light of a face like that. So she asks if it is way too easy to read her face, though he admits it does not look like that. Amazed by seeing his observational skills, she tells him that it is rather uncool of her to scatter all her emotions over the field like marbles. With that, she mentions she feels totally fine, though it looks to Akon that she is either convincing herself or him that she is fine. But he picks out her usual habit of sliding through every bad phase of her life by putting it in an "I am totally fine" bucket. So he yells at her that one of these days that bucket is either going to leak or explode on her face as a smack for not accepting her feelings. So he makes sure she gets it through her head that he is aware of her not being fine at all, even with whatever she says. Taken aback by his stance over her pitiful way to run away from her misery, she finds herself embarrassed with a mix of sheer frustration and shock. Although she cannot seem to process being caught like this red-handed, so she had pretty much the gist of how the thieves go through. Looking down, she desperately finds any means to jumpstart the conversation without bursting into cries. Mustering up the courage, Hinako expresses that she likes herself, which is a good thing on her part. Though she is proving to the master of confusion and misleading, because Akun is shocked through his spine while seeing her take on this conversation. But she mentions if she didn't look the way she is now, could it be possible for her to say the same thing about herself? Maybe that is the only way the people would stop misunderstanding her and see for who she is, not how she looks. With that aside, she will finally be able to mingle with the other girlies and do this stuff together, rather than shopping out all alone while noticing young girls laughing on some of their inside jokes. Then she suddenly burst with an awkward laughter to drive the tension away from this room so as not to inconvenience Akun. She expresses her fault for being such a blabbermouth. A bolt out of the blue, Akun grips her arm, while gazing inside her soul through her eyes. He states that the beauty she has is the ultimate justice to this world. Mic drop. Dumbfounded by this new take about her problems, Akun decides to rumble his analysis to Hinako about her, starting from praising her all perfectly sized proportions of the body placed with the all-natural legs and arms, holding her shoulders to make her feel the way he does. He adds that her all-natural, long, wavy, and soft hair is inexplicable when it comes to putting words down, just because the mere words of the uncultured masses cannot possibly fathom the true beauty before them, is just because they are far out of reach from it. Not to mention, if there are any flaws or lacking, even a tiny bit could not outshine her in any way to be a negative factor. Furthermore, Akun makes sure she understands that the pitiful losers who talk shit behind her back about this beauty are just fools. So with a thud over her shoulder, he explains how it will never be her fault for being this beautiful, and it will never dim anything that makes her who she is. Not gonna lie, man just delivered a 30-minute lecture into 3 minutes with that fast tongue refusing to slip at any moment. Let's just hope it has passed through her brain. If not, we still have Mario Kart to suck the aggression out of her body. Besides, Hinako seems to be dumbfounded on her knees, who just feels rather shocked to hear Akun use such words for herself. Moreover, he asks her if any of that hurts her. Then she has a right to get angry at them, so she exclaims of getting angry at her place. Hinako is blown away as she did not see this all coming at her. To top it all off, Akun is finding every possible way to boost her morale right back in its place. He reminds her about the time of her 3rd year when someone burdened her with accusations of ogling their boyfriend. So he tells how his younger self went his way out to the shrine to pray that the girl fails her exams. And most importantly, that guy who got mad at Hinako for rejecting his ass gets his pinky toe stubbed brutally. Although he mentions wishing for something rather different for them at this age, but she gets the idea. Akun chuckles while telling this story, as he mentions that he has no clue if it ever had any effect in their life. All of a sudden, Hinako jumps right on top of Akun, flooring him to the ground. She catches him off guard in the warmest hug of all time, as he didn't see that coming. With the dangling spectacles over his nose, there goes another time in the list when she threw herself at him just to treat him like a dog. But this dude did not see the kiss on the cheek coming at him, as the room settles down with a high temperature. His eyes widen with shock, he suddenly drops his jaw to the floor while screaming on top of his lungs. With that, he yells out about it going out of the line even for her. Thus, it gets clearer for him after he shakes the feeling off and calms his breath, but his gaze pries the other way as he finds Hinako strangely sweaty and confused. Suddenly, flashing before his eyes, she stands up yelling about how he took it in the wrong way, while being embarrassed. Stammering with such beads of sweat slipping her smooth skin, she expresses of getting a little too happy, so just forget about it. Without a doubt, Akun is dumbfounded as he only sees himself being treated the way like a dog, whilst he cannot process why she is blabbering about it meaning anything. This dumb-headed guy leaves the sweaty, stammering Hinako to fetch some strawberries for her like a good dog. However, she feels to be on the verge of anger and cry, but she has no idea which emotion to show first. Afterward, a sudden turn on the knob shows Suko finally arriving home, as she hears the commotion around the house. Hinako complains to this idiot as to why he is not even a little embarrassed about this situation. Bursting into tears, she spots Suko, who demands to know the reason behind her beloved Hinako's cry. Not gonna lie, this poor guy seriously needs some insight here. Can't process if he has broken some secret girl code or something. If anyone could help a brother out before his sister chop him into fine pieces. Calling out to his big sister, Akin justifies himself of being utterly clueless about what he did to upset Hinako-chan. So imagine this, he is strolling down the corridor, lost in his daydream about this goddess when he discovers her mail strangely mixed with theirs. Even though Hinako does not seem to be living near here at all, her mail surely reaches this address, so he finds this to be not a coincidence at all. Talk about a lucky break. Looking over the mail, which includes some pamphlets of his big sister and Tsukiko's envelope, he holds Hinako's mail delivery in his hand. Reaching the door, he twists the doorknob, but he gets taken aback by the sudden pull of the door that shakes him off. As the door swings open like a poltergeist is living through this thin piece of cardboard, suddenly, Hinako-chan welcomes Akin home. Akin reminds himself that Tsuko's BFF, Hinako, has taken residence in their home, and she cheerfully welcomes him inside. Turns out it is Hinako who is rocking a super cute hoodie today. Gotta say, seeing this gorgeous creature's face just makes Akin's day better while filling it with rays of sunshine. Upon entering, Hinako cheerfully asks if her pulling the door suddenly stunned him to his wits because he heard him unlocking as she was passing by. As contentment washes over his face, he exclaims of having such fine luck on seeing a good-looking face like that. And honestly, Akin almost gave away his girly shriek, so he declared his arrival as if he had won the lottery. Later inside, Hinako playfully asks if the door almost gave him a mini heart attack. Stammering a bit while catching his breath, he hands her the mail right away. This woman is just dancing with some of her happy moves to celebrate getting her mail delivery. Gladly, she exclaims about getting her book delivered, but Akin reminds him to deliver mail at her own house. But the catch is Akin mentions to this girl a gazillion times to dress rather appropriately at their place. Thus, he takes a deep breath and figures to be the voice of reason for her. A bead of sweat slips down his face as he musters up the courage to say something that bears some weight. Reminding about their clothing discussion the other day, when he clearly mentions wearing something proper, she spins around like she is on some kind of Broadway show. Hinako spins as if on a runway, all proud of herself and her fashion sense, while announcing that she is totally wrapped. But Akin cannot stop himself from eyeing down her hoodie, as she stands without any pants. Looks like having a wardrobe malfunction is a real disaster while happening under that hoodie. Before he can even try to process this scene, Hinako suddenly becomes all flirty and leans in real close as she asks Akin if he would like to see the wonders underneath her hoodie. His jaw drops hard on the floor, faster than a bad habit, as he continually screams at the top of his lungs when they see Hinako lifting her hoodie to reveal her shorts instantly. Thus, she starts cracking up while bursting over her lungs, as she believes to have flustered him with a sudden shock over the door and now with her alluring charm. Running ahead, while she mentions making him blush instantly, seeing Hinako's smile surely melts Akin down faster than ice cream on a hot day. He fumes in a rage filled with embarrassment as his head becomes all smoky with a red face. Hinako runs away, claiming she made the poor guy blush and got his hopes all high. While getting a bit sweaty, she turns around to peek at his sullen face, which lights up when the pretty face turns to him again. To top it all off, Akin believes that Tsuko's friend, Hinako, is like a walking talking disaster zone for his teenage hormones. Akin believes his sister's BFF to be a danger to his adolescent self. Also, he is pretty damn sure that he has already discovered her major crush on his sister's BFF, Hinako, which is about as useless as a chocolate teapot, to develop a one-sided futile love for her. He recalls the time when his one-sided love was crushed into crumbs once before about 2 years ago, as if someone wrestled his heart with a smackdown. Seeing his short-haired sister jabbing some sense into the clumsy-headed Hinako, she asks her to stop feeling that way about him as he is a man as well. Hesitantly, Hinako nods away while admitting him being really cute, but she assures Tsuko that he sees him like a younger brother. That day, Akin heard something shatter in a far more excruciating way than glass. Chuckling on his misery, he is pretty damn sure about her not knowing about any of these feelings he has bottled up for her all these years. This is why he has developed spiritual awakening in a medication mode to fight through this ordeal. With a sullen face, he muffles his voice of spiritual awakening to himself as Hinako-chan asks if he would like a cup of hot chocolate. Brushing aside his wrinkles, he asks her to whip a cup for him. Something catches his attention over the messy table with a laptop aside, including some papers and pens. He asks Hinako if she is studying. Thus, relaxing right on her couch, she mentions some reports she has to turn in tomorrow somehow. As he is about to sit there, suddenly Hinako comes right up to ask if he would like to watch TV. then he can definitely move around her stuff to have a good view, which is feasible for his comfort. Catching him off guard, he stammers that he too is thinking of studying soon anyway in his room. And honestly, this poor guy cannot seem to catch a break, as it seems to be his third time working up to study. She is taken aback by how much he works up over studying. With that aside, she mutters her test is over, but she definitely has shit ton of mock exams bulldozing their way next month. Holding the hot cup of chocolate, she stutters at him being so studious, while she exclaims him of being Suko's brother anyway, right in her footsteps. While putting aside his hot cup on the table, she cheerfully asks him to study with her right here. Moreover, she mentions reading a bunch of books like a quiet kid with no mischief-managed play, while not coming in his way whatsoever. Tucking his specs back, he sips his hot chocolate while accepting her invitation to study together, as she is fine with it. Scribbling away some important formulas, Hinako is reading as quietly as possible, lost in her own thoughts. However, Akkun is sitting down at the table trying to solve the equations set aside for him. Even though there is nothing but silence in this room, Akkun still cannot manage to focus deeply on his books as he keeps peeking at the back. Looks like this guy's spiritual awakening is wearing down its barriers with time, as his body seems to be developing some top-notch immunity. Since after that kiss, his temptation is reining him like a horse ready for the wild ride. Turning around again and again to see how she is reading so quietly, he cannot fathom how incredibly gorgeous her face is while she reads. All of a sudden, she catches him peeking at her, that jolts an electric shock right up his ass. Flustered up, with flush red cheeks, she forgets how to speak as Hinako asks what is going on. His startling jump almost knocked his specs out of his face, as his peeking operation came to an end with a drastic failure. After a few seconds, he is aware now how she gets submerged in reading books, as if she really loves doing that. Thus, she shares her difficulty in reading with a hard focus range in such a crowded campus, filled with even bigger distractions every step of the way. Not to mention, people's unwanted stares do not leave her alone, so she feels comfortable at home immersed in books. But he refuses to accept such a reason, so Akkun asks what is the real reason behind this ordeal. On top of that, he pictures her having a heck of a free time between her lectures because it is liberal arts. Call for freedom. Dumping down her face, she clarifies how a face like hers doesn't fit the category of a nerdy book girl. Finding any interest in reading books does not fit her character according to the students there. She recalls one judging as if Hinako is mulling over some romantic novel or something, whereas the other guys belittle her reading while exclaiming it downgrades her reputation. Hence, she explains how she is degraded if someone finds her with a book. Hinako is seemingly tired of explaining her way through those brain retards every damn time, so she just thought to go with the flow. So she stops showing herself as the Belle from Beauty and the Beast, who craves hiding in the pile of books rather than explaining her ways to the world. Besides, she believes that the books might not be doing any magic for her because she looks like a sworn idiot anyway. All of a sudden, Akkun refuses to accept this as the truth, which she does not see coming. Recalling how he strolls quietly down the library around books, he finds the compulsory reading that is required sucks in many different ways, though he believes in not ever attending a public library in his lifetime before. But he spots a strange goddess-like girl submerged in reading over the table so quietly that even her breath reeks of silence. Noticing her even more, the dots click right away as Akkun believes her to be his sister's BFF. Hinako-chan, blessed with an unearthly goddess-like face staring at some book, could be a dream come true for every nerd out there. This surely is rather heavenly for a man like Akkun who cannot seem to pry his gaze away from her face. That day, his crush on his sister's friend got even more deep. Reminiscing about the old times, he yells out at her that it is not true that the books make her look like an idiot. He exclaims how the first time he ever felt. Suddenly, he gets muted by his brain while signaling it's not the right time for this guy to confess his centuries-long feelings. It takes a few seconds for him to save his ass as he exclaims, feeling for the first time that she is a profoundly admirable person. Dumbfoundedly waiting for Akkun to clarify, if Suko was here, he would have been done for his life. A sister sharp like that could see through his shattering confession all the way when the clumsy master of confusion seems to have no clue whatsoever. Focusing on the admirable part, he mentions it as since the time he started reading manga. So Akkun cleans his almost obliterated slate by mentioning how it is admirable for her to read to the point of reaching into a library corner. Hiding his breathless voice over a fake cough, he is glad to score such a save. Hinako-chan finds him a bit weird admiring such a little thing like this, hence she expresses her reading because she likes doing it. but bleeding through his nose, Akon screams over his lungs while saying, "It is admirable." Calming himself down with his spiritual awakening, he figures that Hinako-chan is too kind for this world, which even believes blurt out of nowhere, she is blown away, while Akon says that talking about how reading does not suit anyone or anything is unethical even for library standards. Not to mention, it is one rude thing to tease someone with this, as anyone would get their heads rather boiled or get uncomfortable reading in their free space. However, he scolds her for letting the retards like that go, and trying to improve herself due to this is an inspiring action. Hinako hesitantly mentions him as taking things too seriously now, while she just desires that people would quit telling the same thing over and over again. But she cannot seem to forget how he told her that she is kind. And honestly, he asks why hide away when you can embrace reading books for enjoyment any day regardless of what some loafers have to say. More importantly, with a cheerful warm smile, he cries out that he likes that part of Hinako-chan that continues not to give up. Out of the blue, he snatches her book right away, asking for a second thought about what she is reading this time anyway. With that, she reads it to be Haikemonogatari, which is a collection of stories of battle between two clans in ancient Japan. It looks to be some sort of like that epic battle of Gilgamesh for Japan. She bumps her marshmallowy cheeks as she turns fleshy red tomato, thinking if someone bathes her with a tint. She drips down her mouth, hiding the face over her hair, as Akon complains about not handling the ancient literature that well. Moreover, he asks if Hinako-chan's liberal arts gives her an opportunity to major in Japan's ancient literature. Though Hinako, with a sullen face, is mumbling about hoping he really did mean anything or it is just her head imaging stuff. After a few seconds, Akon looks over there while he asks the reason behind this damsel in distress. Out of the blue, she yells so loud about him rushing right back this instant to study, she shares it being nothing. Akon remembers he has a bit of homework piling up with his hot chocolate waiting to be sipped by him, including some snacks on the side. Afterward, Hinako shares her memory of being confronted about seeming to enjoy reading books once before. So he asks if it happens to be his older sister, Suko, and he explains it was his sister all along. Pouting with a pen in his mouth, Hinako tells the tale of them in their second year, middle school in the same first class. Sitting alone over her desk, Hinako notices some girls gossiping nearby her when suddenly a black-haired woman stomps her desk for attention. Looking like a ray of sunshine in her life, Suko barges right in while saying how Hinako seems to be enjoying reading that book. Not gonna lie, Akon's sister has better moves tucked in her sleeve to take away any girl or any man right off his nose. Catching Hinako off guard with that captivating gaze settles before her, so her presence is enough to make her feel content. This guy might need to turn his notebook around to scratch some notes from his big sister's playbook. Talk about the ultra level of flirting. Holding his smoky head of shame, he is having a hard time imagining his elder sister being so assertive just like that. As he screams her name inside his empty head, Hinako continues to express how her heart lost some beats and did a super skip back then. Hence, Hinako-chan is having a peaceful time recalling the good days when she stumbles upon Akon's elder sister, Suko. That day, luck happened to be on her side when she crossed paths with a sharp genius like Suko. Out of the blue, she spots his younger brother with Hinako whispering about such a heady conversation. Coming from behind, like a dictator, she asks what they are talking about at this hour while avoiding their every attempt to study. Jolts right back in his seat, and he is glad to share his elder sister with someone like Hinako. Taken aback by the sudden and surprising arrival of Suko, Hinako exclaims how they agree on the fact that Suko happens to be such a super cool person. However, she expresses her gratitude for calling out the obvious as she finds herself being the most super cool girl in their house. With that aside, his elder sister asks the reason behind such a sulking face dripping down over the corner. However, he tries brushing his mind while recalling if he has ever said that he likes her to her bare face. But his poor soul realizes too late, as nothing can save his ass from this ordeal. Entering the scene to meet this guy, Asahi, the man around here who is a crazily famous dude of his class. Asahi, aka Akon, is chilling in his class, being lost in a world of manga, when this girl pops up right from his back, with such an insane question about idols as if she believes Akon to know about some K-pop Medius guys. But who knew this guy, Akon would actually be fully aware of the Medius hits. Upon hearing if he watched Medius' music video, Akon tells her that he watched every bit of the video which he could do for eternity. A definite jam to be on repeat worthy. However, Jaehyun's visual graphics, the main vocalist of the Medius group, happens to give away such a mouth-dropping performance. That guy is out of this world with his insane vocals, of course. Though the girls notice Akun believes him in totally getting them all, looks like these two are hardcore fans of the medias. After a while, the door of the classroom slides open suddenly, and another dude with a notebook enters the scene. Looks like the dramatic flair seems to level up with each scene, but what's going to set aside everything else is the surprise coming up next. So he asks the first dude if his eyes can locate Asahi Igarashi, who is smashed like a sandwich between the girls, pointing in the right direction up ahead when he is looking for yours truly. Asahi Igarashi handed his notebook over. Akun is surrounded by the swarm of girls that is literally packing his every direction tightly. However, this notebook guy is stunned to his core, as he always finds Akun to be in the center of girls, and he cannot seem to crack his code to attain this feature for himself. Though this notebook guy stuns as if he has seen a ghost, the desk guy adds that this guy seemingly has a heart of steel if he can survive this hell. All of a sudden, the notebook guy barges in their meeting. He mutters awkwardly about him never getting the same pass as Akun, asking them to cut some slack his way and let him join in, but the short-haired girl doesn't buy his crap, so she commands him to get lost. The notebook guy thanks Akun for lending him his notebook during his desperate times, but the girls refuse to give away any second glance his way. He starts to whine like a desperate 5-year-old for some candy and wishes to get special treatment after stubbing his pinky toe. Gotta admit that it is damn funny when a grown-ass man does it. Not gonna lie, that is just another day in the life of his friendly neighborhood Akun, surrounded by his fangirls while trying to keep it cool. Having a glimpse into the life of his true self, Akun, the intentional heartthrob, whom the girl believes has a thing that sets him apart from every other guy in the class. To top it all off, the girl adds that Akun never muscles his way into a meeting where he has no invitation. Thus, the short-haired girl comes up with the shortest explanation to throw on this notebook guy's face as she exclaims Akun of being like a girl. A bead of sweat slips down his face as Akun worries about his gender health if this rumor spreads outside, which looks promising enough like a wildfire. Thus, Akun makes sure the notebook guy hears that he is a man with adequate knowledge about idols. Out of the blue, another girl asks Akun to lend his mind to her, by asking him to spare some seconds her way as well about the club tomorrow. Bidding farewell to the other girls whom he promises to see another day, the notebook guy gets all flustered and irritated by seeing such popularity. He asks the reason for his having immense know-how about K-pop idols and the following trends. That is when this notebook guy asks the real question as to what sets him aside. He mentions having an older sister as well, but he only just gets delicious cooking, but one must be grateful as always. As the desk guy joins the gang to gossip about Akun, the notebook guy cries out, giving his heart on becoming the encyclopedia like him that would be fawned over as well. But the girl believes that these knuckle-headed losers do not get the gist of Akun, so she begins to drop the secret about Asahi being welcomed in any girl's group. The reason behind Akun's comfort zone is because of him having zero intentions like that, so this way he manages to score nicely. But to his surprise, the notebook guy declines the existence of such an entity amidst him. Talking about how this is high schoolers, Akun can hear the heated commotion from here. Unbeknownst to him, the other supports Sawei in the commotion. Not gonna lie, having such a crowd melting beside him in every possible direction might make 2 or 3 names slip out of his mind. Don't forget the time of his legendary moments entering the first year since the start. The bell rings while the notebook guy cannot seem to process such casual free service, though the desk guy couldn't care less as he wishes to snap right inside the club. A sudden hustle and commotion set aside the West High's cultural festival, as people are busy as bees getting their hands over anything that they get close to. Who knows that the strange footsteps over the corridors will catch everyone's eyes while keeping them rock solid in their position. Looks like this audience seems to have seen a ghost, even when she took away the obvious, with the whispers around the town as a woman asks for the whereabouts of Akun in the cafe. Not gonna lie, Akun's peak popularity has already shocked most of the men around the campus, whilst sending some of them to hospital. Waving away to Akun, who is serving a juice over the table, the shivers run down his spine as he finds his big sister and Hinako tagging along here. They wish to greet their little guy, while Akun is blown away by the rest of the school. With such a cute fashion commitment, besides black jeans and a black purse, Soko wears one long-ass top. This girl, Soei, reminds this notebook guy of being so absent-minded that he even missed the time when Akun suddenly got famous for being the guy with flowers in each hand. Not to mention, she talks with the evidence in her hands as she shows the picture of his big sister and his sister's friends side by side. And honestly, this picture has been scattered all around the school by girls and maybe even outside. Though the notebook guy yells in surprise about a man like Akun being so lucky, while having the title of the man with flowers in each hand. Though he cries out of it being so lame, but he refuses to avert his gaze away from Hinako and Suko's photo as if drooling over Akun's fate. That is when he asks the real question as to what this all explains about his hidden secret that sets him apart. While the desk guy whispers about the dark-haired being excruciatingly pretty, Sawei makes sure to tell them about Asahi's sister Suko and his friend Hinako. As she is about to blurt the secret out, Akun catches up to them again right away, while asking what they are gossiping about. A sudden silence fills the air around them as they scan Akun coming right to them, while all of them start cooking up their own version of the story to fit the narrative. After a few seconds pass, the notebook guy states that they are chit-chatting about the girl he likes. Suddenly, the jaw drops to the floor as the sweat washes over the poor guy's face who thinks he is living his secret love life all by himself. The terror and shock fill his eyes as the gasps escape his lips, thinking what would happen if this tale gets scattered across the city. Who would have known the notebook guy to be this witty to figure it out just by the picture, and his lack of interest in any other girl around here? Not to mention, in his prime time of high school, he is managing to feel nothing about any girl in this school. Not gonna lie, but this notebook guy reeks of potential for being the next Sherlock Holmes. Though boredom sucking the life out of him because it looked to be the easiest case he cracked open. Gotta get his appointment for the sudden disappearance of my eraser. With no ransom call on the way, the only hope is the notebook guy now. Moreover, he mentions it being one-sided love since middle school with his sister's friend, Hinako. Chuckling in embarrassment, he screams while thinking who the heck spilled his beans, or he just read his love life out loud while dozing off like a sloth. Needless to say, the notebook guy confronts him about having the hots for his sister's BFF, as he might be really into good-looking girls. Taken aback by standing at the pedestal, as these guys try to dig even more out of the poor Akun. Looks as if this poor guy, drenching in sweat, has taken a dive inside the nearby pond, or saved a pet from drowning. Cause this much of a wet situation doesn't come this easy at all. The notebook guy sure seems to have no bounds in his interrogation mode as he asks Akun what he likes most about Hinako while hinting at her soft melons. Jolting right off his feet with such a freestyle interrogation, he hesitantly stammers when mentioning her face. But to their surprise, Akun has memorized the book about Hinako that suggests she is one heavenly package that has it all naturally. His rumbling stays for some minutes when he dives deep into his analysis while he makes sure everyone knows his side of the story. The blabber-jabber continues for a few more minutes as his mates have already long gone, lost in their thoughts. Though his butt is louder than anything else that catches everyone off guard, so he explains how he likes her for her and not for her pretty face. This part took more courage than facing a dragon in a dark cave. Akun finally accepts his feelings for Hinako in front of his classmates for who she is. And honestly, she is a dazzling charmer, but it is not about her gorgeous, unearthly features that stole away Akun's heart. Well, everything else on the table, her kind personality and her master of confusion with a dash full of clumsiness aside, she is the whole package, seeing sweat dripping down his cheek as if a rainy cloud has booked his head spot for the day. Akun takes a long sigh. He feels like it wasn't that easy like a walk in the park. But the weird thing is that since he got it all out of his system, he rather feels lighter than ever. A hint of pique is marked on his cheeks, which could be the post-confession glow, as the weight has finally been lifted to some degree. But the only thing remaining is to deliver the same burst of emotions to his sister's friend, who is still in a dark place. Seeing him all flustered, they chatter in whispers about Akun's flushed, hot, and bothered face, as the desk guy takes a sigh, knowing that today's youth has still some of this species left. While reminding them about their club meetings, he flashes a grin their way when the girl notices the crazy hustle outside. Together they take a look down the field, where a sudden jolt shakes Akun enough. Suddenly, he vanishes quicker than a magician's rabbit, disappearing before Sawei's gaze catches up to him. Who would have known the field's air has gotten a little more flowery with the presence of Hinako and her friend, who is high on nostalgia. Diving into some grade A awkwardness when Hinako is strolling with her friend through this co-ed school. The atmosphere seems to get a little thicker with each passing minute. But Hinako looks like she would rather be stuck in a dragon's lair rather than here, practically ready to flash away from this scene any minute if her friend gets on board. However, her friend teases her about wanting to go check out the co-ed school, and she wants to run away just when they get here, as if she is being kidnapped and forced into this, while Hinako startles about not ever mentioning wanting to come here. But the liars are the ones with sweaty palms, shifty eyes, and nervous jitters. Well, mostly, and honestly, her yearning eyes are looking for someone or something since they entered this field as if pretending to be on a top-secret mission. This seems to get entertaining every second. Later, her friend whines about her little sister's love life as the sister mentions having a thing for a guy, but not wanting to go out with him. Sighing over the table with Hinako, he finds high schoolers to be creatures from another world who don't make sense. Not to mention asking for advice from someone who spent the fine school years in an all-girls school, unlike this. Moreover, she finds it rather tricky to tell the opposite sex that you like them. With a sudden horrific face, Hinako gets mere inches closer to her friend just to tell her to dial down a bit because she is scaring the crap out of her. Settling back down, she flashes back to her memories with Akun while battling with the butterflies in her tummy. She expresses that she has no words to explain this. Like the thing is such and such, so and so. Her friend cries out about how Hinako starts telling a bittersweet story, which is sorta like the high school's mess. With a thud to the table, Hinako yells that it isn't like that but somehow like love for the family for sure. With the next breath, she cries out about how the guy must have anemia because it is unbelievable to see him not blush when handling her undies in the wash. Furthermore, she expresses doing a lot but nothing seems to work in her favor, so she believes it might have to do something with this co-ed school. Her friend then hits the spot as she asks if he is too used to the presence of girls around him. She assures her that being in co-ed doesn't mean he would interact with girls that much. But on second thought, she remembers Tsukiko having the most chocolate award at school during Valentine's Day, which makes sense. Hinako assures herself that Akun is not like that at all, but her friend is fixated on the seeing is believing theory. Catching up to her, she is snapping some sense in her friend about desiring an outward perspective on this. While pulling her shirt, she yells how she runs off like that, leaving her behind, but suddenly a familiar voice calls out to Hinako. Breathless Akun finally catches up to Hinako. While both parties are stunned at seeing each other, her friend is cooking something up. Before she utters a word, Hinako explains how her friend had a desire to meet Tsukiko's little bro. With that, she asks if he would like to go home now. As he is ready, he gets snatched right back. Some girls catch up to him with a hidden agenda or something and take him away from Hinako, hurling around him, each having her question that is revolving around Hinako and his sister. Bewitched by their super cool presence, they are practically dying to get their photos and SNS, while some of them whisper about their thin waist and such long legs. Talk about some serious fangirl energy crackling within the air. On the other hand, Hinako is stunned on the spot, oblivious to knowing what's causing that ruckus over there. Bless her pure heart, who does seem to be in blazing fire, as she has no clue what's taking Akun so long. This chaos is making our favorite girl Hinako-chan stand there in a killer style like a deer caught in headlights. While her friend is stretching the obvious as Akun seems quite popular in this school. Just like she predicted, she calls him a damn smooth operator like his big sister. Who would have known that Hinako's charming allure would bewitch Akun enough to make him a heartthrob overnight? However, her friend praises Akun for inheriting the family charm, just like his big sister. Having no sound, she turns around to see if Hinako is still breathing, but she jolts away looking at her. Hinako pries his gaze at Akun, who is inches closer to a girl. He is assuring her about something. And a sudden ground-shattering call to attention makes Akun's bones shiver as he hears Hinako calling him Asahi. The horrific gaze of Hinako sent chills down his spine as his eyes widened in shock to hear his first name called out by her for the first time. Not gonna lie, it is pretty obvious to spot Akun's tiny brain cells melting away within nanoseconds. The voice of Hinako has just hijacked his brain while shocking his neural network in a jammed mess. Seems like this poor guy will be needing a reboot, followed by some chilled udon to recover back safely from this incident. With a cold gaze, she makes it clear that they are going home right this instant. The whole field is frozen in fear and amazement, while Akun flashes away to Hinaki's side with a series of apologies. Her friend is rather amused when enjoying this chaotic scenario, trying to hold her laughter inside. It looks like the scene unfolds before everyone's eyes, and it is good for goofy guys like them to have some evidence when Soei explains this even further. With the whole school gossiping about this, Soei asks if they get it now because it seems rather obvious. That is why the girls around the school find it easy to hang around Akun. Since this poor guy is still hung up on his first love, this is the reason he is practically harmless to anyone else. Walking back home, Akan cannot process his thoughts after hearing Hinako use his first name. His eyes are wide as saucers with his face beaded with sweat, and he finds himself speechless on the way home. Looks like the poor guy's having an error with his mental technicality skills. By just hearing his first name Hinako, his thoughts are jumbled as if stuck in an ancient printer. Some of the chilled Udon might snap him out of this starstruck phase. On the other hand, Hinako has a dry mouth as she is stunned to move her head up. Her hair is doing justice to hide away her sweaty face because she too is seeing stars in the daylight. Sweaty palms and wide eyes struck over the ground. She battled with her thoughts and the leftover butterflies. While her friend is enjoying this rather comical silence and thriving in this sweaty tension in the air, which gets more intense by the minute. Both of them are floored while sweating bullets, but Hinako looks rather pale, like a ghost just possessing her body. Clenching her face, her jaw dangles on the floor as she cannot believe pulling something like this. Blown away, she is screaming inside that she is gone and done it now. Besides her, Akun is pretty close to solving this case as he thinks he might have experienced a live example of jealousy. No wonder an angry Hinako-chan still looks pretty, but her nervous jitters make her even more cute. Thrown in the loop, she cannot help but think about how she finally manages to mess up really badly. Thus, she is mortified while turning red as a tomato with her cheeks burning on the side. Walking on eggshells together, they both have their stomach doing flips, or is it the butterflies that multiplied in their stomach? Not to mention, it is not only them, but the audience behind them who also have their jaws dropped to the floor. He asks himself if he is dreaming because he too cannot grasp the fact that Hinako just called him by his first name. Not gonna lie, things just got a little fired up for our boy Akun and his sister's friend Hinako, walking through the field as if they are on a runaway. The next day starts with a picture-perfect morning with fluffy clouds and blue sky and the whole aesthetically pleasing scene set outside. But Akun and Hinako seem to be chilling at home with their lazy asses over the couch. These days, Hinako-chan and Akun seem to be living together as lazily as possible, while Tsuko has basically become a night owl. She is having a lot more nights out these days while bailing on these poor souls to have a kitchen for themselves. Score. Looks like these two again have the kitchen for themselves to cook up any delicious treat they would want, with Tsuko out of the house. From some chilled udon to delicious steak, our boy Akun can serve any platter on the table. So Hinako is glued to the TV, watching a commercial where a girl is playing catch and throwing with a pretty dolphin. Her eyes get wider in wonder at seeing the renewal dolphin show this summer, with her jaw dropping with each passing second. Turns out this girl is having a major case of aquarium fever suddenly because she wants to pat the dolphin as well. Hinako is practically daydreaming about how she would play with the fishes when she reaches the aquarium, while wondering the idea of seeing jellyfishes, octopuses, and everything else belonging to the whole underwater mania. Sulking over the table, she is desperately mumbling about how she wishes to feed the fish, play with the dolphin, and experience aquatic life through her eyes. Suddenly, Akun gets to the obvious as being the helpful dude cutting to the chase. He suggests she should just go then. Knowing the opportunity has arrived, he suggests she head to the aquarium right away, but guess what is coming his way? Hinako, this girl throws a fastball at his side as she demands Akun to come with her as well. With a sudden glance to his side, she commands him to prepare for an outdoorsy evening because they are about to dive into this aquatic journey together. Leaving him rather shocked and confused over the couch, he did not see that coming. Hold up. A thunderous bolt jump starts his neural cells as he asks himself if that counts to be a date. Thus, he is aware of never going out solo with Hinako before, except at the local convenience store. Connecting the dots together about going out alone with just the two of them together, his brain backflips, calling this a win-win situation. His head is on a merry-go-round, faster than a hamster on a wheel. With an adorable gaze and puckered lips, he cannot resist her irresistible charm with this adorable puppy dog look and asks if Akun's down for some fun. She passes a killer smile as if she thinks he is not interested. So Akun yells that he would not miss it for the world and he would definitely like her tagging along with him. Count me in. Not gonna lie, the lad didn't think twice before embracing the idea of going out alone with her faster than a cat pouncing on a laser pointer. Turning around as he embraces this explosive feeling, while calling this a somewhat victory, even if Hinako-chan doesn't seem to look at it the same way. With such passion, he likes the idea of going out on an outdoorsy evening with just the two of them, minus the control freak. Not to mention how heavenly it looks as he cannot stop loving the sound of this. Maybe Akon believes this to be the exact rendezvous he had in mind, but he snaps himself back to reality. Not gonna lie, this lad must shake his hand on beggars can't be choosers to face the harsh world. Honestly, him going out on a so-and-so date solo with Hinako is just what the fandom needs. A little romantic spark is expected to ignite enough flames to jumpstart their romance in no time. Truth to be told, Akon finds the idea of hanging out with Hinako-chan one-on-one has him feeling like he is walking on stars, or maybe flying in the picture-perfect sky, but he surely feels to be out of this world and cannot seem to put his foot on the ground. Let's just say the lad is pretty pumped up for their duo to hit the aquarium trip, even if it is not quite a date yet. So imagine this, Hinako and Akon decide to hit the aquarium and guess what? Turns out, Akon has a severe wardrobe malfunction. He blindly rushes inside his cupboard, making a mess. He yells that he doesn't have any clothes to begin with. Hinako finds herself dumbfounded as she wonders why they would need to be this picky about clothes for the aquarium. Not gonna lie, for a guy like Akon, picking an outfit is a much bigger mission than he thought. Ransacking his cupboard as if a devil possessed his body would not magically pop some clothes out of nowhere like Christmas gifts. Talk about a fashion emergency for Akon filled with yells and screams of having nothing to wear to a damn trip. She suggests putting on anything that he finds first when she believes it doesn't really matter. Even as a girl, bless her heart for being this odd, not to understand a fashion emergency like that. She cannot process what the big deal is because she is all sold on the aquarium's adventure and sights. Hearing him throw things around and rustle them away, he stammers that he cannot just put on anything for this event. Not gonna like, it is rather unexpected for a guy like Akon to be this dramatic for a fashion emergency like that. After a few seconds, he laid down the truth about him never wearing anything aside from his school uniform. Looks like his wardrobe is practically a black hole of uniforms, loungewear, and comfy tracks. However, Hinako does recall him wearing school uniforms to the supermarket and home on weekdays, but when around home and local friends, he is in his comfy tracks on off days. Thus, he cannot blame her for not noticing because they have never gone outside before, so he has to settle in for her surprise stares. So Hinako accepts that she has only seen Akon in school uniform and his loungewear. Suddenly, the door swings open and Hinako barges inside his room, spooking the crap out of him as his jaw dangles on the ground. Hinako manages to scare the living crap out of this poor guy as she demands to see his clothes under the law while acting like police. She orders him to show what he has saved up until now, leaving him sweating bullets. As soon as he comes out with hoops and stripes and rather ankle-showing pants, he finds himself sheepishly pulling out some old clothes. Taking one look at it, Hinako blurts out the need for shopping like a reflex without wasting a second breath over it. Shopping trip. Like a whiny baby, Akon asks if they seem that bad because she answers so quickly. Hinako expresses that it is not like the clothes are lame, so she asks when he bought them. Akon remembers his sister, Suko, buying this for him a year ago while complaining about how he is too indifferent about clothing, so she made him wear it. Upon learning that these are just hand-me-downs from his sister Tsuku a year ago, Hinako practically takes a long sigh. Taking a look at the overall size, she controls her laughter while muttering that he is a little too much for these clothes. Making him look at the sleeves that are too short, Hinako points at how he has definitely gotten taller like a growing tree since then. Akon chuckles in embarrassment for outgrowing his clothes with time. Anyway, he sees Hinako get down on her knees and starts measuring him up and down. So he asks what she is trying to do now. She elaborates in getting the right size so they can shop easily later, while she excitedly calls for the shopping trip. Not to mention, he is probably going to outgrow them as well in no time, while he finds Hinako to be a literal lifesaver. Stammering to let her know that he can measure his size by himself, as she does not need to do this much, and he mentions measuring himself at home, so it is not a biggie for him. But in her target-set eyes, she assures him in no way he can do it accurately. That is why his dress sizes are all messed up. She assures him it will be a real quick process, so before he knows it, she will be done sizing him up. Tapping his thigh, she asks him to take it easy and not to jolt back. Standing like a statue, she measures the size at his back, as she calls it his shirt-length measurement. Moving on to the next, she asks him to lift his arms so she can do his inseams, while Akon is pretty exhausted due to stress from the whole ordeal. Taking a sigh of relief, he then gets happy about having some decent clothes for their aquarium adventure, or maybe even beyond. Moreover, with the tape, she then tugs him to measure his chest. while making Akan fight for his breath, being mere inches closer to herself. A little closer, as her heels take off, Akan starts breaking in sweat, as if feeling clammy all of a sudden, while seeing Hinako tighten his chest size. The lad wishes the ground would swallow him whole or the black hole suck him in. Looks like Hinako's measuring tape might be having some ups and downs while doing his chest size. Especially when his heart seems to be pounding this bad, as if it is almost about to come out. The beads of sweat forming on his forehead, as he is feeling like the world stopped spinning, so he closes his eyes shut. Noticing his odd behavior, Hinako is weirded out, so she mentions there's no need to be shutting his eyes for this. Noting them all down over her phone's notepad, she sends him over to his phone, while Akan is sulking over behind the couch like a little boy. Soaking through his shirt, he is fumbling with words, as he feels like a deer in headlights. With such messy hair, he is panting heavily over the corner, while believing that he just survived it. Not gonna lie, Hinako's just there noting down the sizes, while Akan is not exactly as thrilled as he was before. Dude looks as if he escaped a horror movie. His face shows to be surviving a missile launcher rather than tape measure. Don't get me wrong, but Hinako's measuring routine has got his spine stressing out more than his final exam. As he is catching his breath, suddenly, Hinako eyes him from the side with a million thoughts aside. Hiding her face with her phone, she did not expect this little guy to be so built in with muscles, like a ready-made athlete. Feeling like her world stopping spinning, she is stunned to find someone who is a bookworm type of guy to be this fit. Anyway, Akan musters up the courage to stand and stop whining about it, while using spiritual awakening to counter this. Still a bit fumbling over his words, he mentions that even if they have gotten his sizes right, he still doesn't know two twats about the fashion. Knowing his size doesn't magically transform him into a fashion diva. He mentions being a virgin at picking a good outfit when he spends most of his life in a sack of potatoes. So he asks Hinako if she feels fine picking up something for him, as she got his measurement on lock. Upon hearing that, Hinako's jaw did full on Burj Khalifa drop as her eyes went wider than a manga character surprised by some crazy plot twist. This girl just starts practically dancing inside her head over getting such an opportunity while she vibrates with excitement. She learns that she is now his personal stylist or fashion police over the shopping trip. On the other hand, crossing his arms, Akan walks to the kitchen as he blurts out to be making dinner now, while he sighs like a man facing the pile of dishes. Afterward, the cutest girl closest to Akan is tapping over her phone silently, while he chops up some ingredients for dinner tonight. Her excitement knows no bounds as she decides to get them some matching clothes for the aquarium trip. Imagining herself with Akan wearing matching clothes, she is dreaming about how cute they would like on a date. Not to mention, turning red as a tomato, she expresses that even her undies need some shopping to do. Shutting her eyes, she is not expecting to get any luck over this trip or anything. In fact, absolutely nothing at all, as she continues scrolling for some undies. Taking a sigh of relief, she believes that stuff like this is sort of a mood swing and nothing else. Unbeknownst to her soul, that Suko is playing fashion detective when Hinako is browsing online for some undies. Scrolling down to the undergarments section, a voice like a horror movie whispers to her ears. Shivering with Hinako's jaw dangling, Suko reminds her size is about E70. Hinako's soul almost left her body as she spun around, phone clutched to her chest to seat Suko with a mischievous grin. Both of them get taken aback by the sudden appearance of Suko for being here all this time. Things are just getting a little more awkward with each minute passing by. Here's Hinako and Akan sharing the nervous jitters after passing the measuring ordeal. Suko shows up out of nowhere, only to learn that she was napping all this time and misses measuring drama. While Hinako is still shivering and trembling, they are both mortified by her sudden appearance. Who would have known the devil is sleeping in his cave all this time? Though she decides to jump at her favorite time of shopping for Hinako's undies. Like, what are the odds of them colliding at the same time? Setting her eyes on the target, she asks Hinako if she has measured herself lately because she finds her soft melons to be rather big. Not gonna lie, Hinako's got some seriously impressive assets growing on with time. Hence, fondling her chest, she asks for a measuring tape that was lying around somewhere here. Next thing is seeing Suko rumbling for a measuring tape in the hall, ready to give Hinako some personal fitting session. Seeing this unfold before his innocent eyes, Akan almost burns the food while watching these two turn the heat up this place. All this poor guy wants is to cook some delicious dinner, but these ladies are cooking up before him and are turning the heat more than the stove. The bead of sweat washing over his face, his eyes gets wider when this turns him into a red tomato from all the secondhand embarrassment. A sudden deadly glare from his sister trembles this poor guy for peeping at their measuring session. When he is watching Suko tugging Hinako's chest with a measuring tape, she calls him a pervo. Seeing how his jaw dropped to the floor, she orders her younger brother to turn his eyes elsewhere before she gauges them out. But this man believes in personal boundaries as he thinks they could have measured somewhere else rather than the living room. Talk about the awkward family moment here. A few days later, when the sky is still bright and blue with the clouds doing justice to the beauty of nature, it is a picture-perfect sight. Imagine this: clear skies, puffy clouds, and happy birds chirping through the morning melodies. Akun is setting aside his backpack as if he is on some sort of a mission. Akun with his backpack set on the side while he laces his sneakers while wearing contacts for the first time. Gotta look good today. He recalls his sister still snoozing even when the day's out, which works in his favor. So now's the time to sneak out quickly and quietly. Talk about a perfect time to set for a little adventure on the outskirts of the town. Carefully stepping outside like a ninja without making a hint of a sound, he slowly rushes towards the door while trying not to peep. When he almost reaches the door, a sudden voice freezes him on his tracks while electrocuting his brain right there. Looks like Suko, his elder sister, happens to be a real light sleeper unbeknownst to this poor guy. His shirt starts soaking up when the beads of sweat start washing his face in utter shock and embarrassment before anyone can say busted. There she is, standing with her crossed legs against the wall. A knowing grin is playing over her lips. Seems like this man is only in need of prayer before his sister thumps the lies out as if he is an almost empty ketchup bottle. She can sniff the lies out after a bakery churn out fresh bread. Our boy, Akun, is just frozen up like a pale statue, refusing to move a muscle. Suko asks where he is trying to sneak off to when he has enough chores to deal with at home. Not gonna lie, a big sister is always born with the nose of a bloodhound that sniffs every sneaky shit right from a mile ago. Turning with an innocent face, he mentions just going out. Looks like Akun is pretty bad at playing cool with this old excuse of going out. Well, at least he is giving it a go this time. It's not his fault that his sister happens to be the embodiment of Professor McGonagall of siblings, always one step ahead. But that is not it because she wants to put some pressure in. Suko has already smelled something cooking up, so she asks whom he is going with. Akun finds himself to be the deer caught in the headlights who has no idea where to run, and especially not having Hinako around is even worse. And honestly, his shivering body will make anyone believe he has been short-circuited. Needless to say, he is aware of his sister's shenanigans, because she is too smart to fall for a sleazy attempt to betray her eyes. Stammering before her, he fumbles with his words as he mentions going out with a friend. Not gonna lie, this girl sure knows how to run a tight ship around home and at work. A true control freak, who happens to be the charmer at her high school, is here trying to do some parenting to her younger brother. Time is changing, that is for sure. Though Akun feels as if his little escape plan has hit the train wreck, like a normal snag. Akun is shivering in fear as he knows her sister's sharp intellect to figure this out instantly, but she smiles at his trembling soul. Who would have known his carefully planned out strategy would hit a major roadblock when he was so close to sneaking out safely? Oh well, at least Suko's smile gives off the alarm that she is not about to explode, or if it is the other way around. Let's see if Akun can rescue his ass from being roasted today or not. Setting the stage for a touch of romance and some dramatic flair, the audience eagerly awaited for this day. Hence, the time has finally arrived for the aquarium date, much to everyone's patient anticipation. Hinako is all dressed up cutely in a black skirt and killer top that goes spectacularly with her earrings. With a little pouch dangling alongside her arm, she is looking like a total knockout. And honestly, this beauty is happily munching over a piece of fresh bread, unknowingly turning everyone's heads around, while being unaware that she is catching all the attention this world could offer her right now. The crowd that should go about their day starts chit-chatting about Hinako's presence as she is completely oblivious to the commotion she is causing. Not gonna lie, this girl, Hinako, is pretty much causing everyone to stop dead in their tracks, especially when they are crossing the road while being so carelessly drooling over her sight. They mistake her for some upper-class model with such a thin waist and pretty legs. Whispers are erupting from every corner of the street as they judge her for being a model whose legs could go on for days on a fashion show. Unbeknownst to them, our girl Hinako is just way too invested in going to the aquarium date with someone she likes to even notice anyone else around. Needless to say, the one who appeared at the rendezvous at first is Hinako-chan. Quite strange to find a girl reaching the meeting spot for the date earlier than the guy. Like, what kind of excuse Akkun is thinking to come up with? A makeup chaos, or a fashion drama, or the traditional excuse of being stuck in traffic? Shame on that guy, Akkun, for being poorly late on their so-called date to the aquarium. Out of the blue, it catches her off guard when some guys try to get acquainted with her. These guys, finding a girl chilling alone, decide to shoot their shot, oblivious to who she belongs to. Regretting coming early just because she felt so excited, she hears these guys mumbling the cheesy pickup lines to bore her out. A black shirt guy asks if she is waiting for someone because she has been standing there for quite a while now. Moreover, he passes a lame compliment as he asks if she has time to have some fun. Though Hinako passes a hint of being not interested, these guys surely don't seem to take a no for an answer. Looks like these guys have a head that is denser than a brick wall. How hard it is to get the hint that the girl doesn't buy their ugly scumbag faces. They ask her if she is waiting for the lucky guy, a friend or a boyfriend perhaps. They are pushing their luck because a face like that would never get stood up in public. They even have the audacity to further try getting closer to her when she clearly feels uneasy around them. Trying to touch her like a creepy scumbag, he teases Hinako that if her girlfriend is coming, she can join this party as well. When Hinako states that she would rather stand alone here, she politely tries to shut them down, but the loafers are not handling rejection pretty well. When Hinako's about to lose it, a sudden grab on their shoulder as something sends chills down their spine. Bomb. Unbeknownst to them, the Grim Reaper is standing behind them to rip their soul apart for tainting Hinako-chan. Not gonna lie, these guys are hearing their bones crackle while hearing a voice cut through air like a ninja. Turning around to see as if they have seen a ghost. Suko pulls these spineless street bugs aside. She asks if they could stop touching her with their filthy, tainted hands before she tears them anew. Though Suko's rocking her killer entry scene with her outfit that is heating up this corner. A look that could fire up some flames. And she is standing in a flowery, tight skirt, with a hot top while clenching a handbag. She gives these creeps a death stare, while she makes sure they keep their grubby mitts off Hinako-chan. Dazzled by Suko's charm, they get the reason behind their friendship when one guy finds Suko to be rocking this look. Looks like these clueless idiots are complimenting Suko as if she is some superhero dude with some solid punchlines and a gorgeous heroine to save. Thus she tells Hinako that it is time to leave, while those guys call out to Hinako that they can have fun along with her friend. Truth to be told, she doesn't like wasting time and effort over some pitiful losers. With that, Suko takes Hinako away from them, as she mentions to those slackers to find something better to do. Furthermore, she grabs Hinako's arms and leaves while announcing that they have a date to enjoy, so they ditch these spineless losers behind. Before the guys could utter another word, Suko charges ahead, leaving the scumbag speechless. It seems like Akkun needs to come up with some series of excuses if he wishes to leave this turmoil in one piece. Thus, for now, the girls are the winners of this scene, as if they are charging ahead for their aquarium adventure, so those creeps can bother someone else. So the two goddess-like faces are rushing ahead to enjoy their day, as Suko complains about how Hinako is so quick to get hit on. A face like a total goddess would definitely be a magnet for unwanted attention. She says that it is way too hard to leave her alone like this. Thus, she asks her to work on her death stare to show the creepers that she could chop them aside in a mincemeat pie. Gotta scare those creepy losers away or ready to strangle them to their deaths. Either way, one must be ready according to our personal trainer, Suko. She coaches Hinako a lesson or two about this harsh world. Hinako, ever the sweetheart, suddenly asks the reason behind her startling appearance here, when she was not expecting her at all. Meanwhile, Akkun is lost in the crowd like a loner sock stuck in a dryer forever. Thus, he, a few steps behind them, gets lost in the race with his elder sister, who manages to reach the stage way before him. Not gonna lie, this guy surely misses a golden chance to be Hinako's knight in shining armor. Hence, he is frozen in the midst of the crowd, oblivious to where he should go next. A lost hand with nowhere to go, after tasting failure in saving Hinako-chan. Imagine the scene that could have worked when he swoops right in to let those scumbags know that she is on a date with none other than Akkun. He just lost one good opportunity to flex before Hinako-chan as a savior. Who would have known that his sister would flip some tables around to turn his date into hers? Aside from that, the crowd mutters how that freaky hot girl swoops in to save the model's face. She looks super duper cool, like a female version of a firefighter, always on time. Afterward, they are closing into the museum, and Hinako's excitement sure knows no bounds. They are heading towards the aquarium when Hinako is bouncing like a 3-year-old waiting to pat some dolphins around. Amongst the crowd, there is some tension in the air, the loud silence between two people who are standing against the wall in an awkward stance. With all the murmur and chatter of the people, they seem to find solace in each other's side. Out of the blue, Hinako peeps at his side as she calls Akon's attention to her, who is turning flushy red when averting his gaze to her side. Suddenly, Hinako decides to break the ice to have some chit-chat before Tsuko joins them. Breaking this crazy tension between them after what went on with Tsuko, she cheerfully expresses how much Akon is rocking this look today. Akon, blushing like a tomato, tries to play it cool and asks if she is trying to butter him up. However, he gives credit to his stylist, Hinako-chan, whose sense of fashion is outright awesome. She giggles at getting praise from Akon. She thanks him for giving her such the high honor of being his personal fashion designer. Again, with this awkward silence and a rather loud crowd, they seem to be both flustering up beside each other. With a pink tint over his cheeks, he glances at Hinako's unearthly face, which makes him feel content in this mysterious atmosphere. The silence returns, but this time it is filled with a different kind of tension as Akon steals a glance over her gorgeous face. However, her beauty takes his breath away every single time he tries stealing a glance. Seems like things are just getting a whole lot more interesting between these two, with the addition of Tsuko like the cherry on top. Gripping his backpack tighter, he ponders over the fact that a girl like Hinako has more friends than she could imagine. So why would she invite him? All of a sudden, passing a glance at each other, Akon could not seem to understand how Hinako would ask him out rather than his sister or anyone else. He asks if it is somehow a coincidence, or if she invites him because they often hang out together at home. Or else he gulps his saliva down with an even tighter grip. He wonders if it could be something he has been wishing for all these years. Not gonna lie, this poor guy Akon would save a lot of heart attacks if he just mustered up some courage to express his feelings to our favorite girl, Hinako. The only drawback to this is being chopped into pieces by his own sister, Tsuko, who has her heart already set on Hinako-chan. What kind of love triangle this man found himself into? Let's see how it goes for these three. A bolt from the blue, Tsuko's intent to kill does no justice to her appearing out of nowhere. Scaring the daylights out of poor Akon, he pants heavily as he catches his heartbeat to settle it down, while Hinako welcomes her back wholeheartedly. And honestly, she always seems to be right under Akon's nose, ready to fire his ass up on the ground. Like, what did this little guy ever do to her except prove to be the best live-in butler since a small age? Man, these girls cannot let anyone catch some break. She asks his younger brother as to what he is getting all fidgety for. After Akon calms down beside Hinako, she gets happy to see her tickets for the aquarium, as Tsuko hands them over to Hinako. Setting aside those tickets, Hinako bounces in excitement as she mentions being ready to pat the dolphin and play some ball. Tsuko seems to be rather in businessy mood, so she asks Hinako about why she did not invite her in the first place. There is this awkward silence between all three of them that is filled with some crazy tension, and it gets intense with every minute passing by. Hence, Hinako is standing like a statue of a goddess who is apparently drawn the way when she hears shocking news of running out of toilet paper. Clenching the tickets, she is scrolling in her mind to find a better excuse to avoid any bad blood between Tsuko and her, whereas Tsuko and Akon are diligently waiting for her answer while she is on the verge of a panic attack. Dumping down her gaze in embarrassment, she decided to throw mud at Akon to save herself. Way to go! A bead of sweat slipped down her face as she called this all a complete misunderstanding. Not to mention, Hinako expresses how Tsuko seems all wrapped around a hectic schedule filled with assignments. So she apologizes to her dear Tsuko for not getting any invitations to this aquarium adventure. Trying to actually apologize to Akon in her heart, she giggles awkwardly in front of both, while Tsuko blurts out the obvious that she can always free some time to hang out with her dear Hinako. Aside from that, Akon is relieved knowing that she does not have any feelings for him as he was hoping for, and honestly, he got his hopes all high and mighty on thinking if this actually could mean something, but that is just his head overthinking. Hence, Hinako awkwardly decides to jump aside to start their adventure. While Tsuko eyes her younger brother rather oddly as she orders him to get his ass into gear, she asks Akon what statement he is trying to make while standing around like that, while Akon has turned his don't expect anything mode on. Later on, Hinako's excitement is overflowing as she steps inside the aquatic heaven. Thus, Akon believes that watercolors glimmering over Hinako's skin make her look like an ocean princess or a mermaid. Whereas Suko is enjoying this exhibit of gazillion fishes who have come to meet and greet the humans. Being the woman of science, she already has a profound interest in everything that would touch the ground of science. Strolling ahead, Hinako points to every possible fish that she is aware of. This nerdy girl has read every aquatic life book while waiting wholeheartedly for this day to show off her knowledge about different breeds. On the other hand, Suko is making sure to leave his younger brother behind as she tries to take Hinako for herself. After a few minutes, Hinako asks Akun to take her picture with the shark behind her, setting up their camera while the audience mistakes it with a photo shoot of a model, so they start clearing their way. Hinako asks if they are done yet, but Suko, like a director, is making some changes with the cameraman, Akun. She asks him to lower the angle and makes use of some reflecting light. Later on, Hinako-chan clicks some selfies with them both whenever she steals a chance. As Akun is about to take a bite, Hinako whips her camera out to click a carefree selfie right away. Afterward, moving ahead, they discover a dolphin show starting right about now. So Hinako, holding Suko and Akun's hands, she pulls them inside to this amazing show she has been dying to attend all this time. The dolphins are playing around, dancing together to showcase their art before the human world as Hinako claps in excitement for giving away such a rich performance. Seeing them both having their best laugh, Hinako is lucky to have these two around. Thus, Akun is rooting for her favorite dolphin, whereas Suko is sure of her victory. Hinako's laughter echoes through the hall. Afterward, Akun asks them to head on, as he mentions buying something for their parents from a gift shop. Though he thinks of picking something for his class, but he believes it to be rather painful if he has to explain who he ended up going with. Even when spending his whole day with Hinako, Akun cannot seem to stop himself from stealing a glance at her laughing with his sister. With a widened state of wonder, he is cooking up something in his head. Holding some gifts, she mentions to Suko about getting these for Aki and Ryo. But Suko reminds her that Ryo hates anything about chocolates, as she is one odd kid of her age. As his mysterious gaze does not seem to be interrupted at all, he continues to look at how magnificent Hinako is. Coming outside, Hinako exclaims she has never had this much for a long time. Each holding bags full of gifts, Akun asks Hinako if she is going home or eating at their home today. Fighting her temptation to eat Akun's handmade bites, she mentions going home for today. A sudden buzz over the phone takes Suko's attention away from them as she moves ahead to receive her call. Hence, standing before Hinako-chan, who seems to be pouting as she asks for Akun's hand with a whisper. Dumbfoundedly standing with his phone, he has no clue what devious plot Hinako is whipping up. All of a sudden, she secretly puts a dolphin keychain on his hand, while hiding it from Suko. Speechless with a wonder-stricken face, he seems to be blown away with this cute gesture for him. He is utterly captivated by holding this keychain while he expresses having one for her as well. She finds herself flustered and awestruck, and she can't take her eyes off of it, as it is harder for her to figure out how this coincidence could even happen. Not to mention, they both picked the dolphin keychain with the same color and the same species. As if the universe is trying to talk through this moment. Looks like these two are going to have fewer excuses to get away from each other, because now the power of the universe is on its way to turn this around for our poor boy, Akun. Besides that, Akun is utterly amazed at how this whipped out before them as if they are spellbound, while Hinako is not done with her jaw-dropping performance. Holding her little keychain, she passes a warm smile while exclaiming how glad this just made her. With that, she calls Akun's attention once more, but this time she swoops closer to his face. As their keychain bumps into each other, the two dolphins successfully steal a kiss, so lucky them. But less than an inch closer, Hinako asks him to keep quiet and keep this little secret just between them. Looks like Hinako just controlled her overflowing emotions, or else this girl is ready to steal a kiss from Akun right away. But she thinks of choosing this moment to be rather special some other day. Thus, Akun stands there like a good boy, who promises Hinako to keep this all a secret, while he blushes like a tomato. To top it all off, Hinako had one of the best times of her life with Akun and additional guests, Suko. Though this is not a date, but she is still grinning happily for being able to experience such a thing. Out of the blue, Suko calls Akun's attention, which catches the poor guy off guard as he trembles hearing the Godzilla's voice. Then she hands over her bags and asks him to reach home because something came up and she has to leave on an urgent basis. A bolt out of the blue, a girl sprints towards this direction. She then jumps at Suko from behind, catching her off guard while slamming into her. She calls her Tsukiko-senpai, as she holds her waist rather tightly. Thus, Suko is trying to get away from Utsugi's hands, while both Akan and Hinako are stunned a few steps away. Utsugi is holding her arms and thanks her for coming for her, while Tsuko starts sweating a bit as she is feeling uneasy around this human. Not gonna lie, the triangle was not enough, that they added another character in this love spiral. Well, at least would keep Suko busy for a long time. Though Hinako believes this girl to be really cute, Suko mentions leaving her stuff with him, so she bids farewell to Hinako-chan. Well, they both are still standing oblivious to what just happened before them as they watch Tsuko go ahead further. The little girl dares ask if there is a fine dinner nearby for none other than the devil who chooses her own dining. Akan finds it rather amusing to see his sister walk on the path set by a little girl, as she expresses how anywhere is fine with her. Suddenly, Utsugi turns around to pass a final glance at the beauty Hinako is, as she passes a mischievous grin at her side. Hinako is rather dumbfounded and wonder-struck by her attempt to pass such a sleek grin, while Akan reminds her that they need to head home now. And this is where things are about to get as hot as the magma, and as shocking as a thunderstorm. Whereas, Akan hears Hinako's silence and fixed attention on Utsugi where she says, "Who?" Seeing her utterly captivated by something, he is so stunned that he could faint just now as he sees Hinako's smoky head. Blazing fire igniting her insides, she asks who the hell that tiny skank thinks she is and where she just came from.